outside wall.
He's gonna pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's gonna get them all done with. What amazing
Lead to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is gonna touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save!
Look to the outside as Cronkite goes off. De Jong into second place.
I'm going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
He's trying, there's contact though.
slide left of the racetrack. Chris Benner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schumacher, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
It's been a year-long fight for a lot of these guys in this field. Many different cars, many different tracks, a true test of driver skill across the entire year, competing for the Mario Andretti Trophy. This is the International Division of the Majors Series here on V8's Online. And we are at the penultimate round of the championship, the Bathurst 500. Now, this track has been known for hosting its 1,000 kilometer and 12-hour races, but 500 kilometers solo, that's something that hasn't been done in real life for a very, very long time, and a bunch of sim racers are about to do just that. My name is Reese Gardner, Joining me in the commentary box, Mr. Jay Kennedy. Jay, it is time to go racing at Bathurst for the second time this weekend.
Yep, looking forward to it. Hello, everyone. And as you said, it's been a very, very hard slog throughout this championship. And now we head to the one race on the calendar that we've been looking forward to from the start. It's going to be a very, very tough ask. Around about 3 hours of racing in one of the most physically and mentally demanding cars around one of the physically and most demanding circuits. Cannot wait. There's going to be loads of mistakes, loads of action, and loads of championship implications.
Yes, indeed. Josh Nowak is your championship leader, and he has a chance to clinch the championship at this round if he manages to put it together. But there's quite a bit of competition here. His main competition may be able to get a leg up on him, because we know how cruel this track can be in any race. 500 kilometers is no stretch, I guess you could say.
No, you're right. It's a very, very tough ask. The big thing that Josh has in his favour is 2 of his championship rivals unable to attend tonight, so he's got a little bit of a head start. Does need to secure a decent result to seal the championship. If he does do that, he will seal it before we get to our next race in a few weeks' time at Myrtle Beach. But John King can still take the title away from him. But it's going to be a very, very tough ask. As I said, Josh at the moment leads by 145 points over Dane Burns, but Burns not able to attend. And also Christopher Norton also unable to make it tonight. So disappointing for those 2 guys to not be able to get themselves out there and get involved in one of the more enjoyable races, one of the tougher races in this series, Bathurst 500.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But in the absence of Nowak's fellow title contenders, we do have a few drivers jumping in that we have not seen for the majority of this championship. Jackson Suzlin-Harlow is in here, as well as the likes of Daryl Hockey and Jonathan Ben as well. A few of these guys familiar with the V8 supercar and have decided to jump in to have a run in the penultimate round of the championship. But drivers like the likes of Robert Northway, I'm looking forward to seeing how he does, because we know that Robert has been one of those drivers that's been there or thereabouts in the championship so far with some very good consistent results.
Yeah, he's been one of the form drivers as well as Nowak. Those two, pretty much every round that they've been able to compete in, have both done really, really well. Northway probably hasn't been able to attend as many races as he would have liked, and the ones that he has been here for, he's done a great job and really worked his way forward through the field throughout this championship as well. So it's been great to see all different names, all different drivers, and it's been a really mixed up championship. You said at the start of the year that the top 5 would have been Nowak, Burns, Norton, King and Fox. I don't think anyone would have believed that would be the way it would have played out, but these guys have been the ones that have been here and been consistent every round, and it's great to see how well they have done.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Josh Nowak has definitely turned it on here. He is currently second in practice, a 2:04.7. So he's definitely got the pace. He's very active in the iRacing Oceanic community and has had his fair share of racing in the V8 supercar. So he knows his way around this car. He knows his way around this place as well. But fatigue might well be a factor.
Definitely will be a factor tonight. It's going to be a very, very tough ask to do this, and we've had drivers that have done the 650 kilometre race at the Nürburgring we broadcast on Friday night here on Bathurst Alone. We did the 1000 yesterday, backing it up with another 500k today. It's going to be a very, very tough ask, very, very tough track conditions. It's going to be a very, very cool race.
It certainly is. Well, we are in the race session now, Jay. And Jackson Harlow is on pole with Josh Nowak in second. Zach Baker lining up in third place with Matthew Clote in fourth. Daryl Hockey completing the top 5 with Matthias Magnussen in 6th, 7th Daniel Stevens, Robert Northway in 8th, Dean Moll 9th, and rounding out the top 10, Alexander Sheridan.
Shane Bowen will start this one from 11th position with Jonathan Ben alongside him in 12th. 13th, Joseph Cardamone with Martin Hallinan, John King, Daniel Aitchison rounding out the top 16. Willis Pateklis, Jake Fox, Adam McLeod, and Brad Finley round out the top 20 with 3 more cars on the grid. Trevor Mack, Jason Hussey, and Jeremy Morrison I have been able to start talking again. It's been a very, very big weekend, but we are ready to get underway. Green flag is about to fly, Reese.
Yep, certainly. 1 minute grid time here. And noticing that Harlow has not taken to the grid. A couple of drivers electing to start from the pits. The green flag flies, and away we go. Nowak having to have a couple of stabs at the clutch there, it seems, but a very clean start from him so far. As they come into Hell Corner for the first time, they won't want to do anything too silly on this first lap. Nowak already with a lead off Zach Baker. They themselves are gapping Daryl Hockey, who is undercoming a bit of pressure from Matthew Clote. So when they come around to the top of the mountain, things could definitely get interesting if drivers are stuck behind slower cars.
Yeah, 100%. And the strategy is going to be really key to this race as well. It's a very long race, as we've said. Fatigue will be a huge factor. But the other factor around this race is working out how long you make your stints. We know that these cars in these sort of conditions get around about 24 laps to a stint of fuel. That doesn't really add up to 81 laps, does it? It's a bit of a strange sort of thing at the end. So some teams and drivers will go for 20 lap stints, and other teams will stretch it out to the 24 and do a big undercut right at the end. It's going to be really cool to see how it goes. We might even see that short stop at the start to get some track position.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's something that I definitely expect people down in the lower parts of the field to do. Coming through the S's for the first time, and they are definitely single file. Joseph Cardamone, Trevor Mack, and Jake Fox starting from the pits. They are still making their way up the mountain, but Nowak enjoying a nice gap here from Zach Baker. Now, interesting that you point out that strategy, Jay, because I definitely think it's going to result in some jostling around in the latter parts of the race. As you said, there's quite a few occasions where you can really gain some track position with a shorter stop around here.
Yeah, it's a track that you can really play that strategy game and make it work for your advantage. So there are going to be guys out there that maybe haven't thought a huge amount around the strategy in this race. 503 Ks in length, the longest solo road race in this entire series, this one today. It's going to be a real tough fight for a lot of these guys. Around about 3 hours in length. We're looking forward to seeing how people play the game, people use this strategy, and maybe jump some positions in the pit stops.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's single file once again, Nowak from Baker, but looks like the battle is definitely on for third place, Jay, because Matthew Clote is taking a look at Daryl Hockey, just having to slot back in coming into Griffin's Bend. It's cold conditions here, similar to what we saw for the Bathurst 1000 yesterday. 19-degree track temperature with southwesterly winds and 100% humidity, so there's a lot of grip available to the drivers out there.
Yeah, it's very, very grippy. It's very, very overcast, and the lap times will be very, very low. Hockey, though, doing a very, very good job of defending. Baker and Nowak have checked out at the front, but Daryl Hockey's doing a really good job of holding on at the moment. Daniel Stevens also doing a good job holding on, and Matthias Magnussen, if it actually could speak English. I said I was able to speak English, and I'm guessing I'm not right there. He's doing a good job hanging on to these guys as well. They are our first international in the field. Geez, I'm doing really well today.
It's all good, Jay. It's been a long weekend for us at V8's Online, broadcasting 1,500 kilometres of racing at Bathurst. But Magnussen definitely showed himself to be one of the better non-oceanic racers in this field yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in this solo version, as he is actually chasing down Daniel Stevens, who I believe finished in 4th place with his teammate yesterday. So these guys have had quite a bit of mileage to prepare for this one.
I think this is the most prepared I've ever seen anyone for a race in this series. The Bathurst 500 has absolutely turned it on, and the field is fairly stacked with talent, and talent that doesn't normally drive this car. So I think that's the big thing about this race. The cool thing about this race is we're seeing so many drivers out there that are not masters in this car out there battling in our supercar beast.
Yeah, exactly. It's I guess any race at Bathurst, you do need to be well prepared, because honestly, this track, if you are not adequately prepared, it will absolutely destroy you. And it's actually become a 4-car battle now for P3 because Stevens and Magnussen have caught up to Clote and Hockey. So this could really get spicy in the next few laps. Josh Nowak and Zach Baker, meanwhile, have a look at that. They've really closed up. Baker right on the back of Nowak now.
Yeah, Baker 3/10 quicker on that second lap of the race, so he's starting to close that gap down. And talking about tracks, we know we talk about tracks and joke about tracks biting and biting hard. This track doesn't bite. This track will kick you in the cojones if you don't treat it with the respect it deserves. So this track does not bite. It does much, much worse.
Yeah, it definitely does. Those concrete walls lining the whole place. Across the top of the mountain, you have nothing but blind corners, and trying to wheel a 1,500 kilo, 650 horsepower V8 supercar around here is one of the biggest tasks that any sim racer can hope to try and accomplish. We're currently on board with Daryl Hockey, looking back at Matthew Clote as they come down Conrod Straight. Big draft as they come across the crest. Coming into the chase, looks like Clote does have a very good run here. Is he going to throw it up the inside? He's going to have a look, but you just can't quite pull it up. The chase is one of those corners where if you overshoot it, then you're as good as done.
It's a real deceptive corner too, because you go through the kink and you're so committed through the kink, but if you get it slightly wrong, you're absolutely thrown offline as Nowak comes back and pumps out the fastest lap of the race, 2:04.8, 10th quicker than Baker, so he's a little bit quicker down the bottom. As we're just seeing too, Shane Bowen's had an issue, just dropped a couple of positions. He's been able to regather it and get going again and back in the right direction, but he has lost, I think, one spot from that incident there where he's dropped down behind Martin Hallinan. But this, the chase is so deceptive because you're going through there in these conditions around about 280, 285 kilometers an hour. If you clip that inside curb, it propels the car so wide, unstables the car or unsettles the car. Then you put your foot on the brakes to try and slow down for the second part of the chase. You can't pull up, you can't stop. And, if you're trying to overtake someone at the same time, it's a full commitment, and it often ends in tears if you clip that curb on the inside.
Yeah, you have to be truly committed to any move that you make in that section of the circuit. And looks to me like Clote has really fallen off the wagon in the last couple of corners, because have a look at the gap between him and Daryl Hockey at the moment. There's going to be no chance of Clote making a move on Hockey into the chase this time round, I would have to say.
No, he's dropped down to a second now, so it's going to be a tough ask, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Stevens possibly try and get past Clote to try and make that move now, but they've settled into single file, which is great to see. These guys have sorted themselves out very, very early. It's great to see all of these teams out there have done a great job in presenting their cars as well, and we're going to quickly talk about our fan favourite livery. We can see Dean Moll's livery, absolutely beautiful as ever.
Yep, 100%. Drawn by his kids and scanned in, put onto a paint in the iRacing sim. It's brilliant to see.
Yeah, absolutely cool livery. He's under pressure from behind from Alexander Sheridan and Jonathan Ben. Apologies to the live timing for some reason. He's going a little bit haywire. We're trying to fix it on the fly, but it doesn't look like it wants to play friendly at the moment. We'll try and fix it as we go along throughout this race, and hopefully we'll get it sorted for you in just a couple of minutes.
Yes, indeed.
Magnussen's looking strong here behind Matthew Clote.
He definitely is, really pressuring him now. Stevens actually moving past Clote, so Matthew in some trouble. Unfortunately for Clote, it seems like his tyres are now past their best. It's very difficult to get some consistent pace happening around a place like this. So Magnussen really turning it up now as they come over the top, over the rise at McPhillamy Park. Seems like Cloak's managed to gain a little bit more time on him across the top there, but we'll see what happens when they get onto Conrod Straight. But I tell you what, Jay, it's not been the best of days for Jackson Harlow. He is actually not taken to the track at all. I would have expected him to.
Yeah, it's a bit surprising, especially when he was on pole position. That's the real surprising thing. And my apologies for the overlay issues. I'm not sure why they are not showing the correct gaps. They're showing everyone as laps down, but positions are correct, so we apologise for that. Not sure why they're not playing right. I've never seen them behave like this before, so my apologies for that. But yeah, Jackson Harlow put the car on pole and was in the session, but not out on track, which is really, really bizarre. I would have thought that, especially after the way he raced yesterday, possibly would have been looking for redemption, but in saying that, he did have some tech issues by the end of that race, so maybe wasn't able to resolve them in time.
Yeah, definitely. He had some trouble with his wheel, and those issues may have resurfaced, so that's a real shame if that is indeed the case. But this battle now for position 4, we're following Matthias Magnussen, who's chasing down the two Middle Finger Racing squads, Daniel Stevens and Matthew Clote. And seems that MFR are running an inverted colour scheme to what they ran yesterday.
Yeah, I quite like it too. It's a little bit of a different look for those guys, and one that is very, very striking and stands out very, very well. A little bit different from their standard schemes we see, which are usually quite colourful in comparison. Simple white and black looks quite good. Very, very smart looking livery.
Yes, indeed. Of course, inspired by the real-life Jack Daniels Racing liveries. Meanwhile, we've got Matthias Magnussen in that Workiva-sponsored kinetic racing machine. Another clean-looking one with a very nice shade of green. He is starting to fall back from these two, though. Just doesn't seem to have quite as much pace across the top at this early stage.
No, he doesn't look like he's quite as strong. We're just going to go back a little bit because Jonathan Ben and Alexander Sheridan are starting to put pressure on Dean Mole. And Dean, once again, has come out with the absolute goods on that livery. Every time I look at it, it just puts a smile on my face. It's one of the most creative-looking cars out there. And he is feeling pressure, though. Alexander Sheridan, Jonathan Ben, both in his draft. Might be close enough to maybe dive it down the inside, coming into the chase.
Yeah, almost, but not quite. Just a few car lengths more is what's needed. A little bit of oversteer from Mole on the exit of the chase, but he's managing to hold it together. Have a look at Sheridan behind him, though, using all the curb and a bit of the grass. So they're coming around to start lap 7 here, Jay.
Just had a change of position as well, with Daniel Stevens getting through on Matthew Clote. So that is a change of position for those guys. And also got Magnussen's dropped. What has happened to him? He's now behind those guys. I think he's actually run off the circuit, maybe at Murray's Corner. We'll get a replay up on screen and see if we can work out what has happened to the car of Magnussen.
Yes, indeed. Well, oh yeah, it looks to me like he's perhaps overshot there. Oh yeah, he just lost the rear there and around he went. Real shame for him. Of course, that's a very easy thing to do. You can brake a bit later than you think you can for Murray's Corner, but it's really easy to mess that braking zone up.
It's also a spot too where he attempted to throw it into 5th gear because it's right on the rev limiter in 4th. If you chuck it into 5th gear, you then find yourself unstable in the car, and drivers do get caught out, myself included. Just natural to put it into 5th gear. Oh, hang on, no, I have to brake. And by the time you put it in 5th, you're already committed yourself too far and usually ends in tears and ends up with you facing the wrong way as it's on for the lead too, because Zach Baker's closed that gap back down again to Josh Nowak.
Yeah, exactly. It just seems to be a bit of an ebb and flow between these two in the early stages of this race. Nowak doing good lap times. He's just been hovering around the high 204s, low 205s. Baker, on the other hand, has been doing much the same, but he's seems to have less of a variance in his lap times. So a bit more consistency I think, from Baker. But Nowak, he sets another 205.2, and that's a 205.27 from Zach Baker. So these guys really pushing each other at the moment.
Yeah, very, very consistent from both of those guys as well. So keeping it all together. We're going to go back to this battle now for 7th, 8th and 9th. Mole, Sheridan and Ben. These guys are a little bit closer than they were before. This is the closest they've been since the start of the race.
Exactly. 207.69 from Mole, 207.29 from Sheridan, 207.42 from Ben. So Sheridan is actually looking as though he is the fastest of this bunch. Of course, we got to remember he... was it Magnussen that made the mistake at Murray's?
It was Magnussen, as we just seen too.
My mistake.
Joseph Cardamone's made a mistake at the chase. He's going a little bit too slow for what he should be, so we'll just see if we can pick up what's happened to him. How many times did we see that one too? Yeah, so a little bit of damage to the rear and a little bit of damage to that front nose as well. We saw that a lot too.
Yeah, the damage to the front happened earlier, it seems.
Okay, so hopefully he can get that car going in the right direction and moving on forward as we go back to this battle for 7th position again. Mole, Sheridan and Ben continuing on. The laps just flow by so quickly at this track. Doesn't matter what you're watching, what sort of racing it is. The laps just fly by because it's such an involved lap. It's so intense. We're already 8 laps in. Guys are already starting to feel a little bit of pressure. They're starting to feel a little bit of damage on their cars as well. They're starting to feel a little bit more uncomfortable in the seat. Some drivers will be starting to get into their rhythm a little bit more. But you don't want to get too comfortable in these cars in this circuit, because as soon as you start feeling comfortable, that's when those walls start to fire towards you a little bit quicker.
Yeah, that's it. You need to keep your concentration up. You need to stay on your guard around here. It's not like most racetracks where you got plenty of open space and you can just pump out laps on autopilot. Bathurst, you have to be on your guard all the time. You have to be driving the road in front of you and not a single meter further ahead. Meanwhile, have a look at Alexander Sheridan. He is coming under major pressure from Jonathan Ben here. It's going to be a move at Hell Corner. And it looks to me like that is well and truly move done, because Ben, despite having a narrower exit, he has better traction too.
Just superior tyre performance at the moment. The tyres will be you're really starting to feel a little bit more uncomfortable at this point now. Already done 8 laps, already done 50 kilometres of racing in only 15, 17 minutes. So it flies by at this circuit. We're a tenth of the way through the race already. Some of these guys will be really starting to feel it. They'll be starting to scratch their heads about how some of these guys ahead of them are so quick. Got a fairly big disparity in lap pace, but it's amazing the consistency that these guys at the front have, especially Nowak, who doesn't do a huge amount of V8 supercar racing.
Yeah, certainly. It's awesome to see the pace that he's got. There's another battle I've noticed, Jay, going on further down the field for 11th and 12th between Martin Hallinan and Shane Bowen. Hallinan actually a bit slower across the top that time around, and Bowen starting to put a bit of pressure on him.
Yeah, so Hallinan running the Tickford Racing or Ford Performance Racing inspired Bottle-O livery from the 2017 Bathurst 1000, I believe that is, and Bowen was running his standard team livery, and I must say that both of those look quite good. But Bowen, yeah, it looks a little bit stronger across the top. The lap times that these guys are doing very, very consistent as well. The fall-off that these guys have as well, nowhere near as extreme as we've seen with other cars as well. So these guys have obviously set the car up for the long run a little bit better too.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, you know. At Bathurst, especially in races of this length, if you can stretch out just a few more kilometers out of a tank of fuel, then it will really pay dividends for you later on, even if there are no full course yellows, no safety cars to contend with. So that battle Looks like battle for third, Daryl Hockey. Oh no, Daryl Hockey's actually run a bit wide out of Griffins and is side by side with Daniel Stevens coming into the cutting. You don't want to go side by side there. Daryl Hockey, unfortunately, left a bit hung out to dry there.
Yeah, that's a bit disappointing for him. He's lost that spot, and now will have to try and work his way back through again. So Stevens now into third position. Matthew Clote now applying a lot of pressure.
Oh, goodness me, yeah, Hockey. His corner speed seems a lot slower than it has been before, and Clote knows that. Oh, almost contact coming into the elbow. Oh, Clote is really putting the pressure on now. I think Hockey may have to go defensive at the chase.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's going to be a whole heap of defensive moves put on here at the chase, but I don't know if Clote's going to be able to get it done. No, just can't quite get the braking right. As I said before, he just used that curb a little bit too at the chase, and it compromised his run.
Yeah, 100%. It really ruins your momentum, especially if you can't apply the throttle on the exit. So Clote, it seems, is, oh dear, bit of a slide out of Murray's. That is not going to work for him. But it seems like he's at his strongest across the top. Problem is, there aren't many opportunities to pass up there.
No, you're right. There's nowhere to pass. It's single line from the cutting, which somehow we did see Stevens make that move at that spot. But it's a very, very ambitious move to get done. But if you can do it, as I've also seen Jonathan Benn now right behind Dean Mole. It's a tough old circuit to get moves done on. It looks on paper like there's going to be so many opportunities, but with how narrow the circuit is across the top, as Ben through on Mole, it's really tough to get moves actually done out on the track. So also seeing Magnussen closing up on these guys as well. And back in the field, also got a battle brewing for 14th and 15th. Daniel Aitchison feeling some pressure from Adam McLeod. McLeod's another driver that we've seen do a pretty good job throughout this series as well, been very, very consistent. He'll be trying to work his way forward, as he has done throughout this series.
Yes, indeed. It looks to me like last time they crossed the line, McLeod was actually ahead of Aitchison, so that's a move that's recently been made.
Oh, car blown up out of the chase.
Oh, no.
Jeremy Morrison has got a lot of damage on that car. That does not look healthy, does not look fun at the moment. We'll see if we can pick up what's happened.
Yes, indeed. So Morrison already carrying quite a bit of damage on that car. Seems like he was just struggling to get that thing slowed down. Must have just popped the engine on the downshift.
I just looped it around through the exit of the chase. We've talked about that before. We talked about that yesterday. One of the most deceptive sections of the track. You think you can just get the power on and go full throttle out of the chase, but you've got to be careful because you go over a little bit of a crest, crowning the road, and it can hurt you, it can bite, and it does, just like that.
Certainly does. Seems like one of the most simplistic sections of the circuit, but once again, there's a lot of hidden depths to it. Nowak and Baker continuing to keep each other honest up the front. The gap that they've got now is insane. Last lap by, it was 15.6 seconds.
Yeah, these guys are just broken away from the rest of the field. It's going to come down to these two. As long as there isn't a mistake, actually just going to go back to that battle that we were watching before, because have a look at how close Daniel Stevens and Daryl Hockey are. Hockey's coming back here.
Yeah, he is, and Clote has really fallen off the back of this. Hockey just had a look at, Daniel Stevens wide.
Don't run out
this is going to give Hockey an advantage. Oh, but he can't get the power down over those bumps.
Tough spot to get a move done anyway, though, so he probably wouldn't have been able to get the move done even with the advantage. One potential passing opportunity at the top here is coming up at Skyline, but not close enough. Now it's single file down the mountain.
Yes, it is. And unless someone makes a mistake, then you can expect to be staring at the back of the car in front of you for the majority of your time. And see right there, once again, Daryl Hockey not having much pace down the mountain. And Matthew Clote, oh, that's so close. Almost spun him there, but just backed out at the right time. Good job from both of those guys to avoid an incident, but you can definitely tell Hockey is at his strongest going up the mountain. Clote is at his strongest going down it.
Well, Hockey's probably stronger from Forest Elbow all the way to, just say, Reed Silman Park, and then from there, his MFR cars look stronger, and Hockey, probably the spots on the track that you need to be stronger are the parts that he's looking a little bit weaker at the moment. Very, very dangerous circuit to be not strong coming down the mountain, because those walls are where they are closest at that point.
Yeah, well, I guess it's up to Clote to work on the way he drives around these sections of the circuit, perhaps put a move on Hockey if he can, and then he can take advantage of his superior pace down the mountain to gap him. But, of course, we're up here in the commentary box and we're just talking about it. He's down there actually doing it.
Yeah, doing better than us too, because there's no way I would be able to have this sort of pace, and I think you in a V8 supercar, you'll be the first to admit that, whoa, Clote, massive moment. You'd be the first to admit that you don't have as much pace in the V8 supercar as you do in other cars. Jonathan Ben also up on the tail of Robert Northway as well.
Yes, indeed. V8 supercars, in terms of driving on iRacing, are not my favoured machines. I much prefer my prototypes and small open wheelers, my skippies. But yeah, Robert Northway starting to gap Jonathan Ben here. Actually, looks like Ben was much faster on that last lap by 7/10, but Northway has just managed to get by.
Well, Ben, remember not that long ago, passed Sheridan and Mole, so he's starting to close that gap up, and that little mistake there for Ben's dropped him back a bit, so won't be long, or I don't think it will be long until he's back on the tail once again.
Yes, indeed. Ben, of course, starting in 12th. He now runs in 7th place. Northway started 8th and is up to 6th, of course. That is partly due to the fact that a few of the drivers in front of him elected not to take the grid. Have a look at the run that Ben has got here down Conrod Straight. That's a massive draft. That's incredible. Just a bit too much curb. Coming into the chase, though. That's a move behind them. Dean Moll getting the move put on him by Sheridan. A little bit of contact between those two.
I do say Rubbing's racing, but that might have been a little bit too much there from Sheridan. He's and just ahead too, you can see Ben thought about making the move up the inside, not quite able to do it on Northway. And also in the background now, Dean Moll's under pressure from Magnussen. I think Magnussen might be able to get a move done here. Magnussen's a little bit out of position from where he should be based on pace with that mistake he made earlier. Also, the pit window is open for the guys that want to do that short start at the start of the race.
Yes, indeed. So this is the part where we start rubbing our strategy hands together, Jay, because here is where drivers can really start mixing it up and providing a bit of entertainment for the spectators. A little bit of number crunching to do, because that's one of the parts that I enjoy the most about looking at race strategies, is that you don't know everything that the drivers are planning. And you can make those educated guesses, but you'll always be surprised. Yep,
and these sort of races always throw curveballs as well, which is the cool thing about supercar racing and racing at Bathurst, is there's so many different ways you can attack these sort of races. We saw yesterday teams just do 15-lap stints to make sure that you had a good tyre set the whole way through. Their cars weren't behaving and performing after 15 laps in the tyres, so they were pitting early just for that reason. We could see the same today, where guys pit at 20 laps purely based more on tyres as opposed to fuel. We could see the guys try and stretch it to 24, maybe even 25 laps, and then do a really, really short stint at the end and punch out 6 qualifying laps at the end.
It will certainly be awesome to see that. Update on Daryl Hockey versus Matthew Clote. I just saw Clote clip the wall on the inside of Forrest's elbow.
Yeah, a bit of damage too.
Yeah, a little bit of damage. And Hockey, I think, seems to have sorted out his pace going down the mountain, because he actually had the measure of Clote there. So we'll see what hockey can do here in the latter part of the stint. And there we go. That's Clote going into the pits. So he is the first to blink out of this field.
Possibly a little bit of steering damage, so they decided to break up his strategy now. Use the spare car that you do have available in this series. Get back out there and try and live and fight another day, as Magnussen now right on the tail of Dean Mole. Zach Baker was also pretty close to Josh Nowak across the top of the mountain, but coming down, Nowak just found a bit more pace and stretched that gap out again.
Yes, he did, but those guys remain glued together there up the front. And, well, question, Jay. It's just popped into my mind. If you're Zach Baker or Josh Nowak, do you want to pit before your rival?
I think with the pace that they've both got, I don't think they're too stressed either way. You always want to make sure that you come out ahead so you've got the track position, but I think the pace that they both have, I don't think they'll be too stressed either way. But one of them will need to do something different from the other to break the gap, so I don't know which is going to be the right move, but at this stage I don't think it really matters too much. You probably would prefer to pit one lap earlier just to get the undercut, that one lap advantage on fresh tyres, but you don't want to pit too early, I don't think.
No, certainly not, because then that obviously may rob you of any advantage gained from a potential short stint at the end. Clote is now out of the pits. He's gotten that damage repaired, and he is back out onto the circuit. So, well out of position. We'll see what happens over the next few laps as more drivers jump into the pits.
Well, the one thing he's got now is a clear track around him. We talked about that yesterday. You can just get out there and punch out laps, not worry about anyone else, not get distracted. And if the race goes to plan, you'll end up back in a battle at the end in the last stint, because the strategies will all come back together. As here comes Ben up the inside of Northway into the kink at the chase. Thought about diving it up the inside, a lock-up from Northway. This battle's not over.
No, certainly not, but Northway has gotten a better exit out of the chase there. Now, Ben, as well as Daniel Stevens, will be thinking, oh, Northway running a bit wide out of Murray's. Oh, goodness me, Jonathan Ben. That was obviously in reaction to Northway slowing up, but just a bit too much throttle from Ben. But
oh, another lockup.
Goodness me. Yeah, more problems for Northway. He is not having a good time with the brakes on that thing. So Jonathan Ben is probably going to put a move on him here at Griffin's, but Northway is defensive. Will he be able to stick it back up the inside and retain that fifth position? Well, currently, I suppose, fourth. Oh, just giving each other enough room. Ben having to unwind the steering just to avoid turning into Northway. This battle's getting a bit scrappy.
It's getting very, very intense. These guys have got to be a little bit careful, because Alexander Sheridan, Matthias Magnussen, not that far behind, so they're going to close up if these guys keep fighting too hard. The gap ahead is absolutely stretched out. Actually, Daryl Hockey started to close back in on Daniel Stevens again, so we need to keep an eye on that. The gap at the front between Baker and Nowak is hovering around about that half-second mark, but not separating too much from that. We'll stay with Northway Ben, and now Sheridan is really in this fight.
Yeah, he 100% is. And if Northway makes another mistake, then he's going to bring these two right into the thick of it.
Actually, Baker go back to the lead, because have a look at how close Baker is coming down Conrad Straight. He's found a little bit of pace. I think there may have been a mistake there from Nowak coming out of the elbow, because here comes Baker. He might dive it in the inside at Murray's. No, not quite.
Not quite. I mean, Zach Baker, he's been around for a long time. Been involved in a couple of controversies as well in the community, but I'm sure he knows at this stage that he would not be well served by going for a big dive this early on.
Baker now looking at the run-up Conrad Straight. He's going to have to go around the outside. Nowak getting very, very defensive, doing a good job positioning his car in the right spot as Ben and Northway is done. Robert Northway in the pits.
Yes, indeed. So Northway becoming the second of the drivers to jump into the pit lane. And those other middle finger racing guys will be looking at their teammate, Matthew Clote, and thinking, well, maybe it'll be time for us to pit in the next few laps. Of course, Clote did have some damage to repair, but maybe it would be beneficial if they pit earlier, especially if they're involved in the battles that they are.
Yeah, we're probably thinking most drivers will do 20 or 21 laps in these stints. So that's likely to be what happens, but you know, if you then drop it down to 19 laps or 18 laps in the first stint and then go 21 in every other stint, you could do that. So there's plenty of options for these guys to try and think about making moves, and the easiest place to make passes is in the pit stops, especially around the Mount Panorama circuit.
Yes, indeed. Robert Northway out of the pits in car 55, and he has come out miles ahead of, it seems, the likes of Trevor Mack and Joseph Cardamone.
Baker's doing a great job of applying pressure here to Josh Nowak. So Nowak
He is.
feeling this pressure from behind. A car that he's not really comfortable with. Very, very open with us in our conversations with him this week about how comfortable he is in this car. He's not enjoying driving it at all, but I think he might find a little bit more love for it while he's in the lead.
Yeah, certainly. It's I think I remember talking, I think it was Wednesday with Brock Cat-Eye about the way ego works in racing. If you get passed by someone, you have a bit of an ego hit. If you pass someone, you get a bit of an ego boost. Josh Nowak, I think, in the lead with someone like Zach Baker, who has had a vastly more experience in the iRacing V8 supercar than he has. It'll definitely be doing wonders for his mental state.
Also just saw too that Baker did clip the wall. Stevens has just lost the spot to Daryl Hockey as well, so Hockey's back through. But Baker hit the wall coming through the cutting, just clipped the inside of the wall. Stevens thinking about coming back. Wow, we almost just saw Ambrose Murphy there.
Almost. They are very close there for third and fourth, but oh, Baker! He's overshot the S's! Oh, so close to getting into the wall, but once again, that experience has really helped him there. He just managed to pull it up and keep it out of the wall. Well done.
Just going to replay two of that pass, Daryl Hockey on Daniel Stevens. Just a better run out of Hell Corner and just able to use that run up the straight. And well done for Daniel Stevens for not fighting it too hard. But Nowak's doing a great job of putting pressure on from ahead. It's not easy to do around this circuit, is to apply pressure to the guy behind you, but Nowak's showing how you do it here. You just remain consistent and basically drive like you don't have a mirror, because he's not even phased by that car behind Zach Baker.
No, certainly not, and both of them avoiding the pits once again. I definitely think that they won't be stretching the tank out at this rate. They're going flat out.
Yeah, I think they'll be most 23 laps to this stint. The fuel burn in these weather conditions. Whoa, Hockey!
Oh.
Massive moment coming out of the chase. They're now side by side.
Oh, yeah. He might try to put one up the inside at Murray's. He's definitely got the line, but he gets on the brakes early and yields.
Yeah, I think that was a smart move. I think he thought that he didn't have the momentum going in there, and Stevens would have held the line anyway. So Hockey's gone to fight another day, and now back to fourth. These guys changed position twice on this lap. We don't mind that.
Nah, certainly don't. It's to these guys, they'd probably be thinking, though, oh, it's a bit early in the race for this, isn't it? We should be battling like this at the end. They've got quite some time left before they start to really turn the wick up. They are on lap 19 out of 81, so we're almost at a quarter race distance.
Race is flying by, and as we were just talking about before in regards to fuel numbers at this circuit, these sort of weather conditions, you get around about 23, 24 laps if you're decent on fuel economy. 25 if you're really, really good. It's Daniel Stevens. Big moment for him going up the hill.
Hockey. Oh, he's
really
looking hungry. Super hungry up the top. Look at that. He's just lifting off a little bit more, carrying a bit less speed through McPhillamy Park. How's he going to go through the S's? Just staying behind. It seems like Hockey is really going for that slow in, fast out sort of deal. He's not gaining as much on the brakes as we'd probably expect some people to do, and he's taken that wide entry into Forest Elbow, really paying dividends for him because Stevens did make a mistake out of there. So this could potentially be a move, maybe into Griffins if he can keep this up, Daryl Hockey.
He just needs to keep the momentum going and might be able to get something happening in the next half a lap as Nowak crosses the line to complete lap 19. Start lap number 20. Stevens just throws it over the curb, runs wide, forces the car wide, and Hockey's going to try and take advantage. No one into the pits though.
A little bit of a look from Hockey. He's still putting the pressure on Stevens. They both managed to hit the apex of Murray's this time. As they start lap 20, Hockey, you can definitely tell he's got the car set up for these straight sections at the bottom of the hill. Look at that. Great run through Hell Corner. Stevens is going to have to go defensive here. Hockey in the draft, he's going to pull out here. Over the crest, they're going to go side by side. It's always an awesome shot seeing this from Griffins. Stevens, I think, will definitely go defensive. Braking just a bit later.
Whoa!
Oh, he's run a bit wide. Hockey unable to take too much advantage, though. They're going to go side by side here. Very narrow through this section. Hockey yielding into the cutting. But this is the kind of pressure that Hockey needs to be putting on Stevens at this point.
Hockey did a great job of trying to get an over-under happening there, but I don't think he was expecting Stevens to completely miss the apex and run wide. And Hockey had to check up to avoid contact between them. Good driving from both these guys to avoid contact. I think Stevens was a little bit lucky to not get drilled. If it was anyone else, they might have just drilled straight into the rear of Daniel Stevens and put him in the fence.
Yeah, it's always a couple of inches away from happening, that kind of incident at this track, but it's part and parcel of the package. Let's see what Hockey can do into Forest Elbow. Another nice line, straight exit. Meanwhile, Zach Baker has not managed to catch back up to Josh Nowak.
No, that gap stretched out a fair way. It's now to 2 seconds between those two cars. So Baker now starting to feel a bit of pressure. But have a look at the gap between Baker and Stevens. 26 seconds separating those two cars at the moment.
That's crazy. Those top two, definitely with the class of the field in terms of pace. It's definitely between them for the win at this stage anyway. We never want to count our chickens too early at Bathurst because anything can happen at this place.
Definitely can, and there's another battle going on as well as Stevens and Hockey is settled for a moment. Dean Mole feeling pressure from behind from Shane Bowen, and Mole's going to end that battle just as we get him on TV. He'll jump into the pits and Shane Bowen will continue on. We'll go back to Hockey and Stevens once again.
Yes, indeed. Hockey not as close to Stevens this time, but obviously that's probably beneficial. I did say that that Hockey needs to be putting pressure on Stevens, but you got to incorporate my earlier point as well about how you mustn't get too scrappy with your rival. You don't want to be running side by side the whole lap, because all that's doing at this early stage is just costing you pace, and it's costing you time as well. It could really put you in danger of ending your race due to one silly move going wrong. So these guys are doing the right thing at the moment. Hockey especially, he's putting the pressure on, but he's not getting too nosy.
One thing that I'm a little bit surprised about is that Hockey isn't sitting behind saving fuel. He's actually trying to get a move done. And as we said before, the easiest place to pass around the Mount Panorama circuit is in the pits. If Hockey can save some fuel, come in at the same time, massive sideways. There's the proof that he's not saving fuel. Big saves a bit of fuel, maybe saves a litre over the full 20-lap stint. That's a 3/10 of a second advantage in the pit stops. And that's an easy pass done. So saving fuel is such a huge thing at this Mount Panorama circuit that a lot of people don't realise. And in the real life race, they save from literally the formation lap.
Yeah, they certainly do. It's amazing what they do as Daryl Hockey getting into the pits. Very spirited entry there.
Whoa!
Almost getting into the tire wall. Fortunately, that Team CMR Falcon is unscathed.
Good to see as well that it's got an unscathed. Of course, the car that car will be battling after this pit stop will be Matthew Clote, but Clote, of course, has done that shorter pit stop in his first stop. Now 7 laps into this stint, he will likely jump all of those guys and get back into third out on track, but he's going to have a longer stop at the end. His next 2 stops will be longer than the stops for pretty much everyone else around him, as the guys at the front of the field are on their 22nd lap already. This race is really going by quickly. We're already a third of the way nearly a third of the way through.
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised, and we've only been going for about 45 minutes, so lots of distance being covered very quickly. So Matthew Clote, where has Hockey come? Hockey's still in the pits, and he's just gone down off the jacks. So Matthew Clote, who pitted first out of all these guys, he's currently coming over the crest on Mountain Straight. So that's what that early pit stop does. How will it work out for him towards the end?
It's worked in his favour at the moment because he's got track position and clear track ahead, so he'll use that to his advantage. And Robert Northway also pitted a little bit earlier, pitted 5 laps ago, shorter stop as well.
Leaders
and
in.
Yeah, here we go.
Yes, indeed. Noack two-wheeling it into pit lane. Oh, Baker! Oh, no! Zach Baker spinning on pit entry. That is really not going to help his race at all. What a shame to see. And he's just damaged the car a little bit more on the wall. Fortunately, Jay, I believe they do have a spare car they can use, but that is time that Zach Baker could not afford to lose.
Yeah, no, he was in the battle for the lead, and facing the wrong way at the pit entry is one way to lose valuable seconds. And this does happen to the best of them. There's the real-life Bathurst 1000 winners this year. Had a similar incident, and that cost them a lot of time too, but this race, track bites in every single possible way. Doesn't matter where it is on the circuit, including the pit entry, no one's safe.
No, certainly not. Just behind them, Daniel Stevens comes in to take his stop as well. Let's see where he comes out in relation to Daryl Hockey. Shane Bowen in the pits as well. Martin Hallinan coming into the pits. Oh, and making a mistake, unfortunately. Daryl Hockey's just coming through the chase. So what will that 1 lap difference mean in the grand scheme of things in this first stint? Let's have a look.
Hockey now just coming onto the front straight to start his 23rd lap. Sorry, Reese.
That's okay. I was just saying that both of our leaders are well and truly away, and Daniel Stevens is coming out of the pits now, but Hockey, it seems, has jumped him.
Yep. By about a second. Of longer pit stop for Stevens, obviously, with that 1 lap extra fuel that he needed to put in the tank. Around about 2 second longer stop. 2 seconds in these cars is around about 6 litres of fuel, 6.25 litres of fuel. Pretty much the amount of fuel that you need for a full lap here, which is around about 5 litres or so. So no real surprise that that move has happened like that.
Yes,
But,
indeed.
that will come back later on in the race as the drivers continue on and continue to use this fuel load.
Exactly. Now, Daryl Hockey, as he's just come out of the pits and he's on his first flying lap of this new stint, he's coming into... Oh, no!
Oh, no!
Oh, no! That is not what you want to see. Absolutely not. And he is struggling now with that car's suspension. My goodness, Daryl Hockey, how would you be, man? He jumped his rival, but now he has to let him back by in the S's with major damage to that front right. What happened there? Just pushing too hard across the top?
I think he's hit that curb we were talking about all race yesterday that you don't want to touch.
No, actually, he just pushed too hard. He
Okay.
avoided the curb entirely. It was just understeer.
Oh, hit that wall hard too, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he certainly did. Well, he is going to have to use his spare car out of that. And It'll be full-on recovery drive from then on. Real shame for Hockey. He was in contention for a podium there.
Yeah, deserved a podium at the early stages of this race. The pit lane is absolutely lighting up too, because we're seeing all of our runners in the pits or have already come into the pits to make their pit stops as Josh Nowak. Just saw how much of the track he's using up and over the curb at Griffin's Bend. That is not a section that you want to run too wide at.
No, certainly not. It's that crown in the road. Like it's cambered inwards on the inside is Griffin's, but if you are anywhere near even the middle of the road, then you're as good as done, because you're just going to slide off the outside. If you don't want to hit the wall, you're going to have to slow down majorly. So that's why you generally don't see many moves being fought into Griffins. Guy on the outside will often just let the guy on the inside go, because there's no point in trying to defend around the outside. It is just not going to work due to the physical nature of the track.
Yeah, the way that, as we've talked about it so many times, this is a street circuit, this is public road, and public road needs much better drainage in regards to the way that the road base sits and the way that the road crowns, based on it being a two-way road. So you definitely see that most evident on the outside of Griffin's Bend. It's so evident that it's a street circuit, that it's a public road, with the way that there is a legitimate crown in the road and so off camber on the outside of that corner.
Yes, indeed. Josh Nowak will be resuming the on-track lead of the race here, setting a 2:05.0 for his first flying lap of this stint, continuing his incredibly consistent pace. Looking back at his lap times, he has set 2:05s almost every single flying lap of that last stint, except for lap 3, which was a 2:04.
Yeah, the one lap he didn't set a 2:05, it was better. It was a 2:04. So he's doing a really good job, and just seen too that he's 1 full second quicker than Zach Baker on his first flying lap as well. So that pace that he's got is very, very strong at the moment as Baker comes into some lap traffic. But what this round of pit stops has done is it's hurt all of our battle packs. It started to ease off. The one battle pack we do have is Trevor Mack versus Joseph Cardamone. These guys have been battling amongst themselves pretty much all season too.
Yeah, they certainly have. We've seen them together on track, be it road course or oval, GTs or stock cars or sprint cars, what have you. These guys have not been able to leave each other alone. And at the moment, Trevor Mack with his 2:09.19 versus 2:08.9 from Joseph Cardamone. It seems like Cardamone has the measure of him here. Also carrying a bit less damage as well, so should be interesting to see how these guys get on. Tiny bit of a look at the chase, but once again, if you're that far back, there's no point in trying to dive up the inside.
No, you might as well wait and find a better spot to do it. Also, Daryl Hockey is back out there in his second car.
Good.
And
good.
Continuing on, and hopefully he has a little bit more luck in the second one than he did in the first one. At the moment, stuck behind Shane Bowen, and he'll try and get a move done very, very soon. But speaking of moves, Cardamone thinks about it up the inside into Hell Corner, not able to do so though.
Yeah, he just ran a bit wide, and that once again is one of the deceiving corners around this circuit. From the air, it looks like your run-of-the-mill 90-degree left-hander, but it's got a very strange line through it, and I guess there's no correct line through Hell Corner. You saw Cardamone there demonstrating that it was very easy to run wide. Through Griffins, though, he seems to be latching onto the back of Trevor Mack very nicely. Coming up into the cutting, he seems a bit smoother as well, using a bit more of the road.
It just looks a little bit more consistent going up the mountain, just flowing the car a little bit better. And a lot of these guys that don't race this car a lot will be all using the same or very, very similar setup to their cars as well. So going to be a lot coming down to the driver stability and driver feel in this car, and feeling comfortable in these cars is probably more important than finding something really, really quick in regards to setup. It's such a difficult car to drive. if you at least feel comfortable driving it, you're going to be quick anyway.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, people say there are people who often think that, you know, setup is everything, and if you have a good setup on the car, then you're going to be fast no matter what. But fact of the matter is, in the V8, the setups that the quickest guys use often will be very difficult to drive because they're so innately tuned to the specific driving styles that that this car may require. Cardamone having another look at Trevor Mack, a very wide line through the chase. He's managing to stick with it, though. Awesome to see. But as you said, Jay, stability is key in this thing, especially if you're a novice.
Yep, and we often get asked about what setup do these front guys use and how much quicker are they on their setups. Well, we've seen quite a few of the top guys. Here comes Cardamone. We also just saw Daryl Hockey get the move done. Cardamone through. We've seen a lot of the top guys put out videos of them using their actual race setups that they use for, say, V8 Scops or OASC or the Monday Night Official Series, and then jump in the car with baseline with lower fuel load and just slight tweak of tyre pressures or slight tweak of one little thing, and they're within 3 or 4 tenths. It's really not a huge thing in regards to setup to find a big chunk of time. Driving laps around these cars is where you find a big chunk of time. To find your couple of tenths at the end, that's when you need to start worrying about the setup.
That's exactly right, and I suppose that really speaks to one of the major misconceptions in sim racing. You know, setups, obviously they do benefit to an extent, but they aren't everything. That's the one thing that every sim racer needs to remember. If you start worrying too much about the setup too early on, you're going to get nowhere. You got to work on yourself and your driving style first.
One thing, though, about that, a bad setup is never a good place to start. You need a very, very good baseline setup, and if you are looking at driving the RSM V8 Supercar, the baseline setup is actually very, very good. It is an old setup that was used by a large number of drivers as their baseline setup for V8 Scops and the Monday Night Official V8 Series. So it's actually a setup that was used as a few teams' baseline setup for a large portion of time. So don't be scared to admit that, hey, I use baseline with a couple of little tweaks in it for tyre pressure and, you know, a couple of little things just to feel a bit more comfortable and adjust the gear ratio, because that's pretty much what the top guys did, what the pros did for a large portion of time not that long ago.
Yes, indeed. Of course, there's a lot of... I guess you could say that the iRacing V8 Supercar has one of the best support networks of any car in sim racing. We've got at least 3, 4, I'd say, at the very least. Very competitive, very populated series, both official and hosted in the V8 Supercar. And there's an awful lot of guys willing to offer advice and tutoring and tips on how to get the best out of these things.
Yeah, you also got your driving schools, the TTL Driver Academy, great place, virtual racing school as well. But a lot of places out there to offer tips, advice, and everyone in the V8 Supercar is so open and willing to offer advice and offer tips. If you're in a session with some of the quicker guys, don't go out there and say, hey, can someone send me a setup? Go out there and say, hey, I've been working on a setup. Can you help me with my setup? Drive my setup and give me some advice back. You'll get a lot more appreciation from the top drivers if you ask them to help you with what you've been doing as opposed to just asking them for a setup. They'll respect you a little bit more and will often, in return, give you a setup or give you some help with your own setup that'll make you feel a little bit more comfortable in the car.
Exactly right. Fantastic to see that level of initiative in any sim racing community. Well, back to what's happening on track. Daryl Hockey and Shane Bowen seem to be quite close together at the moment, Jay, and Hockey, of course, on a big recovery drive right now.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he hasn't been able to break away from Bowen. The gap that he has got to Bowen is around about 0.8 of a second, but the pace that he had earlier, I thought he would have just broken away, maybe got a 2 or 3 second gap already. It's been ahead for 2 laps, but Bowen's just sticking with him, and this is great to see from Shane Bowen as he tries to move on forward and gain some spots. Needs to gain a few spots to keep the fight alive in the Sportsman Championship as well.
Yes, indeed. It's of course the Sportsman Championship is we got a few different sub championships in the Majors series. We've got the Pro Division, which is the top division, and of course it's the overall championship. Sportsman is for drivers with under 2,000 I rating. And, of course, we've got the Legends division for drivers who are over 50 years old. And John King currently leads the Legends division standings. And Shane Bowen currently running in second in the Sportsman Series. Northway leading that. So there's a few different accolades still yet to be decided for this season.
And John King been absolutely a standout throughout this series. I think this is probably the car that he's struggling the most with. He doesn't look overly comfortable. His lap time's very, very consistent. He's just done his fastest lap of the race. And the last lap as Northway runs off the circuit. Northway's starting to get some pressure from behind from Daniel Stevens. Last lap by Stevens was 0.6 quicker. The lap before was about 1.3 seconds. So Stevens is closing. You might be able to get this done very, very quickly. What that will do, that will then close the gap down one more spot between Bowen and Northway. That's going to mean that championship will come down to the final race of this season in a couple of weeks' time.
Yes, indeed. Always something to fight for in the Majors series, not least the Mario Andretti Trophy, named after the man himself, who is one of the most versatile racing drivers to ever compete, Jay. Definitely
Didn't matter what he jumped in, he just found pace and was able to win. So, Formula One winner, IndyCar winner. Didn't matter what it was, road, oval, dirt, whatever, he jumped in a car and he could just drive it.
Oh, Northway! Oh. That's always scary up the top there.
Yeah, you just put those right-hand wheels up on the curb. It's okay. As soon as they drift half a tyre width off that curb, you could find yourself facing the wrong direction, even jumping the fence at Brock Skyline and going over the fence. But I must say, though, Robert Northway's livery, that was always one of my personal favourite liveries out on track. It's great to see it out there at iRacing.
Yes, indeed. It's awesome to see that kind of livery. It's always awesome to see the amount of inventiveness that sim racing liveries have. Because real-life liveries, we've had some real good ones over the years. As, oh, goodness me, Stevens running a bit wide there. This will help his Sportsman Championship as well, finishing well at this one. But real-life liveries, there's plenty of cases where they've just been too safe. They've been, dare I say, boring. But in sim racing, you have a completely blank canvas, and the only limit is your imagination and licensing restrictions, obviously. But but we've seen some fantastic liveries from across the community.
Yeah, 100%. It's been great to see all different ones, and throughout the time that we've been broadcasting, nearly 7 years, we've seen some amazing liveries, and the V8 Supercar liveries always seem to be ones that are right on the limit. The painters out there push the limits, push the boundaries as much as they can, be so inventive. You look at the likes of the middle finger racing ones, the MFR ones look amazing. If you were to just glance at that, you'd say that's an inverted Jack Daniels livery, but it's not. It's a middle finger livery with their own logos, their own design, their own look. It's just been inspired by the Jack Daniels liveries of the day, the old Perkins and Cali Racing liveries, and quite like how they look. But that Wins livery of Northway's, one of my favourites, looks really, really cool.
Yeah, certainly does. Very striking colour scheme. We don't see enough purple on liveries anymore.
I
do we,
agree.
Jay?
I agree.
Purple needs to come back.
Yep.
Oh,
here we go.
hang on a minute. Here we go.
Whoa.
Yes.
Oh, dear me. Goodness me.
Drag race now, though. Down Conrod Straight.
Yes, indeed. I wonder how long it's going to be before someone makes a remix of my reaction to that.
It won't be long.
No, certainly not. Side by side down Conrod, it looks to me like Stevens has the advantage, but Northway is coming back. No, he is going to yield. And that may very well be the end of it, because we did notice that Northway did have a few inconsistencies over that stint. Oh, might he come back, though? Stevens going defensive, coming into Murray's. Bit of a narrower line, but he's managed to get the power down nicely. Oh, this battle isn't over.
No, it's not over. The
Who
one
am I
thing,
kidding?
though, the one thing Northway has in a disadvantage is he pitted very, very early in comparison, so he will have to pit earlier and have longer in his next couple of pit stops. So that does bode well for Stevens. Matthew Clote up the road as well, also in the same situation as Northway. The rest of the field, though, all pretty similar on strategy, but surprised no one's really gone for that reverse engineered race since they pitted on lap 8, lap 9 to get some fresh tyres on it, get some track position and go again. So some of the drivers haven't been as inventive as I thought, as Daryl Hockey up the inside and moved on Alexander Sheridan. Sheridan's car looks a little bit second-hand, driving a Holden Cruise, not a Commodore.
Yes, indeed. Alexander Sheridan, he's been in the wars a bit in this race. Of course, not quite sure where that damage ended up happening.
I'm going to guess on that last lap because he's just done a 2:17 on that last lap. We'll see if we can go back and get a replay and work out where that's happened to Alexander Sheridan.
Yeah,
Looks
looking very
like coming down the
suboptimal.
mountain.
And that's a part of the track that is always going to bite you. Yeah. Just locking those rears.
Yep, just locked up at and the S is coming into the dipper, and
He would have saved that were it not for that tyre bundle jutting out.
how often does that happen around Mount Panorama? Just one tyre bundle, one little concrete wall, one flag marshal post in the wrong spot and you'd be okay, but Sheridan will continue on for a little bit. I think he's going to try and get himself to that pit window where he'll be one stop away from making it home and maybe get to, say, lap 36, come in and pit, get his spare car, and then he'll have one stop to go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, Matthew Clote around, and
Oh,
Hal
no.
Connor has hit the wall.
Oh, no! Oh, there's big damage on that car. Big damage. He already had a panel missing on the right-hand side, so obviously had an appointment with a wall across the top of the mountain, but, oof, just got on the throttle a bit too spiritedly. Around he went.
I think he was possibly thinking about getting past Brad Finley, because Finley moved across to get or allow the run for Clote up Mountain Straight, and he might have got a little bit too ambitious with how it's worked. And my theory on Alexander Sheridan is not going to be correct because he is already in the pits.
Well, I guess that car must be a little bit more internally damaged than we initially thought. Fair play, though, to Alexander Sheridan. He's going to get that thing fixed up and out onto the track again, and I guess he'll just be cruising around to see where he'll finish.
So Daniel Stevens will likely get past his teammate in Matthew Clote here, because Clote with a little bit of damage, also on that alternate strategy, the same strategy that Northway is on. So Stevens will likely jump up to third. If that is where the race finishes in regards to positions, Stevens third, Northway fifth, Bowen 10th, that'll mean that that championship, Sportsman Championship, will come down to the final race in a few weeks' time. That is going to be exciting. We love it when the championship comes down to the wire.
Yeah, certainly. Especially around a track like Myrtle Beach in the late models. That's going to be certainly an awesome spectacle. We hope that you'll be able to join us for that in a few weeks' time.
Sheridan's come out of the pits just ahead of Daniel Aitchison, and this has turned into a battle here. See if Aitchison can stay on the tail of Sheridan, maybe be able to use Sheridan's a little bit better pace to learn a couple of things going up the mountain, then use that draft coming down. We'll jump on board with Aitchison and see what he can do. It is a tough old drive. It is a scary drive for some inexperienced drivers, especially in this car, as Northway is now in the pits.
Yes, Robert Northway. Obviously going for... when did he pit, actually, the last time?
It was 16 laps he just did in that stint there, so... Means he's splitting it up into 16 laps. He's going to do 4 stops, judging on that, or... We're on lap 33. We've got 49 to go. You've got to do... It's going to be a tough ask to do 24 and 25 laps stint, so he's probably going to do 16 and 16 and then do a shorter stint at the end just for tyre wear, probably finding in the way that he's got the car set up that the tyres aren't behaving too well after 16 laps. And as we said before, it's better to feel comfortable in the car than to push it and exceed the limits of the car. It's very, very easy to find that limit in these things.
Yeah, it certainly is. So we'll see how Robert Northway does in the second half of this race, which we are only laps away from reaching. Josh Nowak has been untouchable for the last few laps of this stint. He now has a gap of over 22 seconds from Zach Baker. And despite the occasional small mistake or lockup, he's continuing to set these very consistent lap times. In fact, he has just done his first 2:06 of the entire race. Only then.
It's amazing pace that he's got, and another 7/10 on Zach Baker that last lap. Since Baker's dropped out of that draft, he's just been nowhere near the pace that we've seen out of Josh Nowak. But we're going to go back to Matthew Clote. Look at that sideways moment he just had coming out of Murray's corner, and he's going to feel the pressure from his teammate in Daniel Stevens in the next lap or two.
Yeah, he definitely is. Clote, of course, struggling with that amount of damage on his car. It's going to hurt him coming up the straights. Daniel Stevens, of course, has a championship of his own to worry about, the sportsman division.
Oh, Clote again!
Oh, dear.
Safe to say that these tyres are not behaving too well. These Dunlops are a little worn. Definitely a set of second-hand Dunlops for sale in the pits after the race.
Yeah, certainly. Clote definitely... sorry, Jay.
I was just about to say, we've got about 100 minutes of racing to go. Guys will look at that and see, all right, we've done 33 laps. Look, oh no, still 47 laps to go. This is the point coming up to the end of your second stint where you're thinking, okay, I'm done. My concentration levels are starting to wane. This is getting very, very tough. And you've got to go and do another 250 kilometres. It's going to get very, very tough for some of these guys. As Daniel Aitchison is out of the race by the looks of things. We'll see if we can pick up what's happened to him.
Yeah, certainly. So, Aitchison...
He had a moment at the chase.
Perhaps.
Has he had a tech issue, or has he had...
I think it's a tech issue.
Car failure? Just disappeared off the timing screens.
Issue. Yeah.
So, yeah, some sort of internet issue or some sort of PC issue maybe. But yeah, just disappeared off the circuit. So always disappointing to see that. But in some ways it's better to have that than to have your car shoot across in the fence, which we saw yesterday. Issues for some drivers where they just shot across the track into the fence and weren't able to complete the race. At least if it is some sort of internet or PC issue, you might be able to get back out on track with an okay clean car as Matthew Clote does move aside and lets Daniel Stevens through. Probably a good idea to let the team boss go through.
Yeah, most likely. Of course, Clote will be able to save a bit of fuel here as well, which may benefit him in the long run. I get the feeling that Clote has already used his fast repair after that little clip of the wall out of the elbow early on, so he may be carrying that damage for quite some time to come.
Yeah, and that damage is looking not great on that right-hand front wheel. I think the contact with the wall coming out of Hell Corner did look like it was a little bit onto the right-hand front wheel as the car sort of propelled around and then hit the side of the car as well. So it does look like if there is damage to the car, it is actually wheel damage as well as cosmetic. Hopefully it's okay and he's not too badly damaged. Jump on board. Love this shot looking over the shoulder of the driver. You can see the wheel work across the top of the mountain. See if he has got a little bit. Yeah, he does have a little bit of right hand down, but it's not as bad as I thought it might have been. It's not as severely damaged as I thought it would have been.
Yeah, that's true. Looks to me like the car does look heavily damaged from the outside, but that's most likely just cosmetic damage. So we'll see how he goes. Obviously, it's not working out well for him so far because he's actually dropping back from Stevens. Oh, and a big slide out of the elbow there for Matthew Clote, but I think he may very well have lost that draft that he could have used.
Yep, and we're probably not too far off coming in the pits anyway. Maybe another 2 laps before we see him. He's on his 21st lap in this stint. If he pits now, then he'll have to do 2 23-lap stints. I think his smart move would be to do maybe 2 more.
Oh, Stevens just ran off.
And Clote heavily hit the curbs coming through the chase, and looks like he's got through it unscathed in the end, but these guys are really pushing hard, and this is really important for Daniel Stevens to get a good result to keep the Sportsman Championship alive.
Yes, indeed. He's doing well at the moment as Stevens. Currently has assumed 3rd place, but as the drivers approach the halfway point, it's a good point you raised, Jay, that a typical stint around Bathurst in terms of the 1000 or the 12 hour is usually around this amount. At most, probably 40 laps or thereabouts at once, often less. So this is a situation that not many of these drivers will be familiar with, especially those that have driven at Bathurst before in the V8.
You know, usually 2 stints, a double stint for most drivers. Even in the real life races, we see double stint is about the most. Maybe a triple stint at the end of the race, which is still only 60, 65 laps. To do 81 laps is a very, very tough ask. And I don't think there'd be many drivers in a real-life V8 supercar field that would have done 80 laps back-to-back around Mount Panorama. So it's definitely a tough ask for a lot of these guys, and especially the ones that are not familiar with the cars. Very, very tough track, very, very tough car, but definitely separating the highly skilled drivers and the drivers that are deserving of a majors championship title, and the guys that are just lapping around to maintain points and continue to get points in this championship. And the field is fairly spread at the moment, but there's a few positions that are starting to close up. Alexander Sheridan closing up on Adam McLeod. That gap's closing. Martin Hallinan starting to feel pressure from behind. Oh, right on cue. There's commentator's curse if ever you've seen it. Protectless in the fence.
Yeah, Protectless in the 666 car with that looks like a rug has been draped over his
machine. Got a set patchwork quilt. Yes, Persian rug.
But he's doing reasonably well at the moment, is Protectless. He started 17th and is now up into 12th, so he's gained positions, but he does have McLeod and Sheridan starting to bear down on him now after that mistake.
And Sheridan's pretty close to McLeod too. Sheridan has a bit more pace. Also seeing Matthew Clote in the pit, so he's done 22 laps in that stint. He'll have to do 23 and 22 in his last 2 stints, so that's definitely doable in regards to the tyre and fuel stint lengths in these cars. But Alexander Sheridan back in the field a little bit from where we'd expect him. Of course, he did have to come in and get damage repaired. Now in his spare car, out of sequence, out of position from where we would expect him. He's got a tough ask to do because he's still got to make 2 more stops as well.
Yeah, he definitely does, and obviously getting caught up behind cars that are up to 1.2 seconds slower than him in terms of lap time is not going to help matters at all. McLeod, a bit of a slide on the exit of Murray's Corner, and Sheridan, his main priority here, I think, is to just bide his time, because we talked earlier on about balancing that pressure and making moves as McLeod actually lifts off and lets Sheridan go. So Sheridan's next target will be Protectless, but Sheridan needs to start putting in those lap times, but making sure that he doesn't do anything too drastic.
Great to watch these guys that are a little bit out of sequence as well try and work their way through. It's very, very tough to pass A in these cars, B at this track, C as a combination of the two. But understanding where to move aside as well for faster traffic. As we watch Adam McLeod, now he's got to try and work out where to let Josh Nowak by, and that's often more difficult when you are a little bit slower than the lead cars, working out where to let these faster guys by. And I was about to say, that's one of the best spots to do it there, is to stay offline, and just a little tap of the brake is all you need to do, is to let those leaders go, or leaders know, I should say, that you're going to let them by. You just tap on the brake a tiny little bit so your brake lights flash. That's enough of a signal for the leaders to know that you can go on by. Good job from McLeod to get out of the way, and it hasn't cost Josh Nowak too much time. One thing I was going to say as well is I don't think I've ever seen Adam McLeod drive the V8 supercar, ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen
a lot of
him
GT
in
racing,
this car
but never in
before.
this car.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a new experience for him, isn't it?
It's a bit of a different beast from what we normally see him drive in the GTs and the like. So good to see him out there, and I don't know if he's enjoying it, looking at the way the car's behaving, but I must say it is very, very good fun. If you can nail a lap and actually get a decent lap time around here, it doesn't matter if it's a 203, a 205, a 208, a 210. If you can improve and beat your lap record in a V8 supercar around Mount Panorama, you feel like Superman, because it is such a tough ask.
It definitely is. It's one of those places where, you know, if you can just get to the end of a lap cleanly, it's an achievement. There's so many drivers who, especially since Mount Panorama came out, as Alexander Sheridan lets Josh Nowak go, so he's going to go a lap down as well. But Mount Panorama is one of those hero tracks, I think, that you see on iRacing, and it's one of the most popular tracks on the service, particularly among our community in Australia and New Zealand. And there's a bit of a trend where, you know, everyone who drives on it seems to think that they will be able to complete fast laps around it right away, but the reality is you really need to knuckle down, put the time in to learn this place and learn where things can go wrong, and only then will you be able to find success, even in a pickup hosted race.
I think the one thing about the circuit is a lot of people that are fairly new to sim racing and iRacing especially, is how Pateklis just let through Josh Nowak and then comes back across to cover from Alexander Sheridan. So we've got a real battle going on here now. But one thing about this track is it looks so different to what you see on TV. TV is so deceptive for how this track actually races and how this track behaves, and how steep and amazingly cambered and uphill, downhill this circuit is. TV makes this track look so deceptive. You and I have both been here numerous times. We know how steep it is. We know how hard it is to get around when you're on your feet. In a car, just as tough. Been lucky enough to do a few laps in my car. It is absolutely scary and incredible how steep this track is, and so deceptive, even in sim a little bit. The run up the mountain, especially through Griffin's Bend up to the cutting, how steep that section of track is incredible.
Yeah, certainly is. I got about a week's worth of exercise in 15 minutes walking up from Griffin's Bend to the cutting. Yes, it took me that long because I had to take a few breaks. I was also trying to record a video at the same time. So it's yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything more to add to that. It's one of the most deceptively steep racetracks in the world. Even on the front straight, it looks so flat on the pit straight here at Mount Panorama.
It's uphill.
But it's uphill, and it goes over a crest as well. So you need to always be working your legs walking up that place.
Public service announcement though, this section of track that Alexander Sheridan is coming past now at Metal Grate, just on the other side of the Metal Grate there is a tap. So if you do need a drink of water when you are walking the circuit, there is a tap right there.
Nice.
Public service announcement right there for you.
Wish I'd known that when I did my
Sorry,
track
Rex.
walk. Thanks, Jay.
No worries, mate. You weren't far away from your campsite at that point anyways. Jonathan Ben is in the pits, and he's damaged too. What has happened to Ben?
That's no good.
Oh, he's hit the wall coming out of the
Racing.
chase.
Oh no, what a shame. So Middle Finger Racing not having the best luck.
No. Had in yesterday as well. They had a great night on Friday night. in the Australian Online Supercar Championship Enduro at the Nürburgring, but yesterday they had 2 top 5s, but the number 1 car, Triple 2 car, unfortunately had issues. While they had the potential to win the race, and Jonathan Ben just there looping it around in front of the Ridges Hotel, and he's now jumped into the pits. He'll get his spare car and get going again, which is a positive sign. Just changed his strategy a little bit, which isn't always a bad thing as well.
Yeah, no, it's always good to change things up a little bit, and even if it's not so much intentional, then you basically just need to make the best of what you have, don't you?
There's nothing wrong with alternating your strategy and changing things up, especially if you're down the field or out of position, or the guys you're battling with, you're not making any inroads into them. You might as well do something a little bit different, as we're pretty much at halfway through this race. So up the inside, finally, Alexander Sheridan, but Pateklis holding on around the outside. You can't hold on. How did he do that around the outside of Griffin's Bend? You can't do that, but he just did.
Well, I mean, Aldis Pateklis is one of our resident internationals, so he probably has no idea.
He obviously hasn't got the memo that you can't go around the outside.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I didn't know I couldn't do it, so I did it.
Oh, good job to hold on there, because that was scary. I know you and I were both holding our breath and seeing that, but he's done a great job and managed to pull a little bit of a gap from it as well.
Yeah, he definitely has. Sheridan getting a good run out of McPhillamy Park, though. That's interesting to see. We'll see how they go down Conrod, though. Sheridan obviously putting some major pressure on Pateklis now that he is within range.
It's a great fight these guys are having here. I thought that this might have been all over a little bit quicker. I thought that Sheridan would have been able to get by, especially with the pace advantage that he did have, but doesn't look like that's the case as they come down Conrod Straight around about 285 kilometres an hour. Have a look at the draft drawing Sheridan up, though.
That's crazy. Of course, he's not close enough to make a move once again, but it definitely seems like there's the threat of a move there. We are now past half race distance, Jay. Josh Nowak just starting lap 42.
Robert Northway in the pits once again. Coming to get some fuel. So he's now had his 3rd pit stop, but he's done it at halfway. So he's just breaking these stints up into different little segments so he feels comfortable. Done an 8-lap stint then, so he's going to try and split it in half from now on to get it home, I'm going to guess. Dean Mole also just come out of the pits for his 2nd stop. He has 1 more stop to go to bring it home.
Oh, Hallinen's spinning in front of him, though.
Oh, I was about to say Hallinen's the biggest mover in the field, but he's decided to lose all of those spots that he had gained.
Yes, indeed, and this is a very awkward position for him to be in.
It's probably
right
the
on
worst
the
spot
exit
to
of
be in.
Griffin's Bend. Yeah, there's very little runoff to work with. Oh no, this is not going to end well. Get it going, Martin. Get it going. Oh dear.
Got a heap of time now he can get around as we're just watching a CPR replay, and you just clip the curb on the inside, and again, that crown in the road, that is one thing about the crown in the road that we often don't see. If you don't get over the crown in the road at the right spot, it will actually propel you into the inside wall. You have to flow over that crest in the road, the crown in the road, that is naturally there to help the water runoff being a public road. If you don't get across it in the right way, it'll just propel you onto the inside wall, which Hallinan just got caught out a little bit with there.
Yeah, certainly did, but he's managed to get going regardless. He's lost quite a bit of time, but he hasn't lost the entirety of his race.
Sheridan in the draft again, down Conrod Straight, tucked right under that rear wing of Pateklis. Pateklis has done a great job to hold on to this position. Sheridan, though, getting out of the throttle, saving a little bit of fuel. Oh, he's going to try and dive up the inside into the Celtics chase. Not enough. Pateklis off the track, though.
Yeah, there we go, and Sheridan will go by there. Of course, Pateklis would have gotten a slowdown penalty as a result of that, so he had to slow down as soon as he got back onto the racetrack. Alexander Sheridan through, continuing his recovery drive.
In regards to the Sportsman Championship, Stevens 3rd, Sheridan 10th, Northway 15th, third, second, first in the championship in that order. That puts those three guys pretty close in regards to where they will all sit points-wise going into the final round in 2 weeks' time. Bring it on, bring it on!
Yeah, bring it on. The overall championship, the Pro Division Championship, may be decided today, but we're still going to have something to fight for at Myrtle Beach.
Well, the Pro Championship does look like it has been decided. Josh Nowak will likely win that, but the Legends Division, that's been sorted for a little while. John King, this is actually the lowest I've seen King throughout this entire championship. I don't think I've seen him back in 18th. He's usually been hovering around the top 10 or so. Looking at the points, he's been right up the front pretty much the whole way. If he was going for the Pro, well, in the Pro Championship, I think he's 4th as well.
Yeah, it's bizarre seeing King that low down, because I remember he did win the Daytona 500,
yes.
So that's definitely helped his championship there. But aside from that, he's generally been consistently top 10 to the midfield, if not top 5 at a few rounds.
Yeah,
so
he's had 4 top 5, so 4 out of our 12 events before this, he's finished in the top 5, and I think nearly every other one he's finished in the top 10.
yeah, so obviously this car track combo is not entirely to his liking, as Daryl Hockey having a couple more problems behind him there on track.
Baker's come out behind Hockey as well, so we'll likely see Nowak in on the next lap too.
Yes, indeed.
Sorry, Reese, I just ruined your train of thought
worries.
there too.
That's okay.
I'm good at that.
That's all right. I often ruin my own train of thought. It's no issue.
Let's go and use this as a segue to talk about trains and a hype train, because we've been hyping up something really, really big here at Bathurst Line. Tomorrow morning we will have this major announcement that we've been hyping up for days and days and days. So make sure you do follow us on all of our social media, at Bathurst Online on Twitter, Bathurst Online on Facebook. We will have a major announcement tomorrow morning, which is Sunday night. If you're in the States watching us now, you will find out sometime early tomorrow morning in Australia and New Zealand. We'll have it all up on our Facebook page, what we've been talking about, but it is going to be huge, and we're really looking forward to seeing the reaction from the community around our announcement.
Yes, indeed. It's something that we've been working on for quite some time. Just developing stuff behind the scenes. It's going to be a real step up in the way we operate. So I'm just really trying so hard to resist the temptation not to completely spill the beans now, Jay, but it's seriously a big development.
Yeah, it is. It's huge. It's game-changing. As off the track goes Cardamone. Here comes Adam McLeod, not quite able to take advantage. These guys are pretty close at the moment, also on the same strategy. Cardamone not long got through, but going to keep that up. He might just throw the position away and let Adam McLeod back through.
Yes, indeed. Cardamone is hovering around where he started, so it's not been a complete loss of a race for him so far, but yeah, he does need to get that thing back under control, and maybe he can start trying to move forward. Pateklis isn't that far ahead, actually, all things considered. He's only, I'd say, about half a chase length in front.
Leader in the pits, Josh Nowak, in for his second stop. 22 laps on his first 2 stints, so he's going to break it up into 22, 22, and whatever the next number is that equals 81. My brain is not working today, so I can't be bothered working it out.
That's perfectly fine, Jay.
I think it's 15. Is it 15? Is it 13? I don't know.
Well,
just tell me what it is. I haven't even got my phone in front of me to get my calculator out, so...
It's a surprise, Jay. Surprise.
I'm normally right up with all of this stuff too. It's actually quite frustrating when I can't work things out, because I'm normally so up with the ball and strategy is so my thing, and I'm normally all over that, but I'm going to get absolutely trolled for not even being able to add up today.
Yeah. Time to go back to school, Jay. Might have to go to class with Harrison a few times.
I do have to go in the morning, but I can't say why. I've got to go to school in the morning. I can't say in case Harrison's watching, because I do know that Harrison does watch our broadcast, so He will love a shout out at the moment though. Hi Harrison, if you are watching.
Yeah, certainly. G'day, Harrison.
Reese
Josh
is looking
Nowak.
forward to seeing you next week as Nowak does lose the lead to Daniel Stevens.
Yes, indeed. I am looking forward to making my way over to Melbourne next Friday for PAX for the VSR Showdown. It's going to be a huge event, and looking forward to catching up with a bunch of sim racers in real life, some for the first time.
Yeah, looking forward to it as well. We're going to catch up with quite a few for the first time. It'll be great to catch up with yourself and Sandman, Fonty, Mitch McLeod. Sadly, I get to see Mitch quite a lot these days, but he'll be okay with me saying that too, as Mitch McLeod and myself are sort of family these days. So it's actually his fault that V8s Online started too, Race, if you didn't know. Did you know that? We can blame it. We can actually blame it on Mitch McLeod for all of this monster being created.
Really? I did not know that.
One night he's like, oh, there's no one broadcasting the Monday Night V8s. Do you want to have a go at it? And I'm like, oh, all right. Tell me what I need to do. So he come and help me set up. And before you know it, I'm broadcasting every Monday night. It's on the V8 Supercar website. And I'm trying to find people to commentate, which yourself and Sandman helped me out with. So it's a monster that, sadly, Mitch McLeod created.
Yeah, well...
We better not give him any credit for that, though.
It's all your fault, Mitch, but your name is not on the title.
No, you don't own the company, bad luck. You get no royalties, sorry mate. I need to thank Mitch for everything he helped out with in the early days. All the on-screen graphics all were done by Mitch, which was really cool. Our original overlays were really revolutionary in comparison to what a lot of other broadcasters had out there at the time, as Daniel Stevens jumps in the pits. Josh Nowak resumes the race lead. We've only got 36 laps to go, Reese. We're getting down into the nitty-gritty. We're already about 280 Ks complete in this race.
Yes, we are. Nowak just starting his lap 46, and I tell you what, the lead that he is enjoying over Zach Baker now is quite substantial. Baker only just making his way into Murray's corner now as Nowak approaches Griffin's.
Yep, it's a very big lead that he's got, and Magnussen also in the pit, so the field's pretty much cleansed for this second stop. Two guys that have not had their second stop are nose to tail here on screen. Pateklis and Cardamone. Feels like this is a little bit of deja vu. They're going at it again.
Yeah, they definitely are. And Cardamone taking that narrowish line into Forest Elbow. Pateklis, though, staying nice and smooth and controlled up ahead. He's done very well so far in this race. Has Pateklis in the 666, running in 10th at the moment, having started 17th. So
biggest mover in the field he is too.
Certainly. And have a look at Cardamone. Oh, right out to the left edge of the chase. You wouldn't want to go too much more left than that. My goodness. But he is definitely on the back of Pateklis now, and almost going to be a move at Murray's, I think. No. Cardamone thinks better of it. Oh, look out.
Although Pateklis has run off the circuit, and that's the easiest way to get a move done. Force a mistake. I think that little wiggle across the side, I think Pateklis thought he was going to go up the inside. He tucked back into line and go, what's going on here? And outbroke himself, did Pateklis. So, easy spot done for Joseph Cardamone. So our biggest mover in the field now is Trevor Mack. Started in 21st, he's up into 13th.
Yes, indeed. Trevor Mack, being his usual consistent self, as Adam McLeod we saw pulling into the pits just then. He is currently up on the jacks and getting ready to go.
So battles that are starting to unfold as well. Daniel Stevens just come out of the pits. Totally different strategy to his teammate in Jonathan Ben and Matthew Clote ahead. Stevens looks really quick. Very consistent at the moment. So Stevens is one to watch here. He was coming off a fourth place finish yesterday as well. So he'll be looking to move on up through the field. Jonathan as well, fourth, teaming up with Daniel yesterday. So these guys will be looking to get moves and go on a back-to-back good result after yesterday's race in the Bathurst 1000.
Yeah, exactly right. Daniel Stevens obviously riding that high with his teammates, so obviously that's carried over into the racing for today. But as you said, Jay, the field has been cleansed, and Zach Baker and Josh Nowak resume positions 1 and 2 on track.
Actually, there's still 4 cars left to come in for their next up. Sorry, 5 cars left to come in.
Ah, yes.
We've got Jake Fox, we have Brad Finley, we've got Trevor Mack, Pateklis and Cardamone, who are yet to make their second stop. We've had Daryl Hockey make 3 stops and Robert Northway make 3 stops. Both of those guys have had damage fixed as well, both in their spare cars, as well as Matthew Clote also in his spare car. So a few guys have run into a few more issues than they would have liked. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this next stint plays out. The end of this stint, the final stint between these 3 MFR cars, all 3 on different strategies, 3rd, 4th and 5th at the moment. I think the positions are going to be reversed, but Ben versus Clote is going to be really close. Ben needs 3 less laps of fuel, which is around about 15 litres. 15 litres equates to 5 seconds at the stop.
Oh, yeah. So basically what Ben needs to do is just stay out of the wall, and he's got that position.
Just maintain this 2-second gap that he's got at the moment. If he can save some fuel in the draft as well, he's going to get even more of an advantage. The issue he's got that he needs to try and pull a little bit of a gap on his teammate behind in Daniel Stevens. If he can't pull that gap, Stevens will probably jump because he is 9 laps better off than Matthew Clote at the moment. Stevens is in the best situation in our top 10 in regards to fuel strategy. Worse off in our top 10 is Alexander Sheridan. He's currently 15 laps into his second stint. Of course, he did have to pit for damage 15 laps ago after incident. A couple of laps before then, he tried to stretch it out as long as he could to come into the pits, but he couldn't extend that time any further, as everyone is now in the pits to make their second stop. Means that the field now is officially cleansed, but we're not far off pit stops number 3 for Sheridan, and also likely Robert Northway, who's really mixing up the strategy. He's going to do an extra stop from everyone else based on 1, that spare car, and 2, he was also mixing up the fuel and tyre stint lengths just to feel a bit more comfortable in the car as well.
Yes, indeed. We'll see how well that pays off for him come the end, because obviously at the moment it doesn't seem like he's gained all that much from that kind of strategy. He's actually slid backwards from his starting position, but of course we can't put that entirely down to pit strategy. Robert going for that even split, and
that comes back to what we were talking about earlier, doesn't it? About where you need to feel more comfortable in the car. He's probably done a lot of testing throughout the week and found that if he was, onto 16, 17, 18 laps, the tyres just were horrible, and he felt more comfortable in the car. Might not be as quick, but he just felt comfortable, and that's more important in these races than anything else.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Northway setting a 2:08.17 on that particular lap. His fastest was a 2:06.2 on lap 35.
Daryl Hockey and Alex Sheridan going at it at the moment. Sorry, Rex, just to cut you off there. Hockey starting to come back through the field. Last lap, 1.6 seconds quicker than Sheridan. He's closed that gap up, but closed it at the absolute worst spot on the track. He's going to have to stick behind the whole way up the mountain.
Yeah, and that's going to be very painful for Hockey, because especially through this section, the track definitely looks wide. You can fit 3 cars across, but only at a standstill, I guess you could say. The way that the turns flow into each other means that there really is only one optimal line through this entire section of track, and if you want to make a move on someone, your best chances are a move here at Forest Elbow, or even better, down at the Chase.
Yeah, there is probably one spot that you can get a move on, but it does take a fair bit of cooperation, which is the approach between, or the chute between McPhillamy Park and Rock Skyline going down the mountain there. But you don't usually see actual passing for position. It's more guys that are lapped down moving out of the way for cars trying to put laps on, as opposed to actual position change. But Hockey, look at the way he's bouncing the car over the curb at the Chase. That's commitment right there. And I'm surprised that the car settled as well as it did after he hit that curb.
Yeah, he's done very well actually to maintain momentum here. He's going to go for the move possibly at Murray's. No, actually yielding very late. So this I think is more of a pressure game than anything else, just trying to pressure Sheridan into a mistake, or possibly stay behind to save a bit of fuel.
Yeah, possibly do that. And Sheridan will have to come into the pits in around about 6 laps. That'll get him to the end of his 23 lap stint. 6 laps from now means we'll have 27 laps to go. Means that Sheridan is in a real bother.
Oh, look out.
Oh, easy move done in the end there. Sheridan's just got out of it to let Hockey through. But Sheridan's in trouble in regards to fuel. He still has to make 2 stops. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if Sheridan jump in the pit, say, in the next lap or two. Get back out there with fresh tyres and break it up into 215 lap stints. Get much better pace over the entire stint with your tyres. And interesting too, now that pass has been done, have a look at the gap between Jonathan Ben and Matthew Clote. Ben is closing and Stevens is dropping, which I'm surprised about. Stevens hasn't got the pace at the early stage of this stint that he's had in the last couple of stints. He's dropping back from his teammate in Ben. Ben's the quickest out of these 3 at the moment.
Yeah, I've just taken a look at Daniel Stevens' last few lap times. He set a 2:06.4 on the lap before his last, and it was almost it was a 1.8 second difference between lap times there. So something must have happened to Daniel Stevens on that last lap, a mistake of some sort.
Yeah, mistake or a lap car just getting in the wrong spot at the wrong time, or easy to make mistakes around this circuit too. It's just so unforgiving. You can find yourself off the circuit or running wide or just missing an apex, and it can cost you a second, 2 seconds. Griffin's Bend, if you run wide at Griffin's Bend, you basically have to check up, lose 2 seconds just to get the right gear again and reset your brain to start that lap over again. So one little mistake is he's just gone quicker quicker than Ben on that lap there. So yeah, definitely a mistake on that lap previous. But Ben is well and truly on a charge. He's now in this draft going up Mountain Straight. He might be close enough to get a move done here on Matthew Clote.
Yeah, if he can keep this pace up going up the mountain, he may very well, possibly earlier if Clote keeps that up. My goodness, he's really starting to struggle with that rear end now. Jonathan Ben, though, looks like he's just maintaining some nice smooth driving. Oh, Clote, I mean, he had quite a bit of potential in this race, but unfortunately, it hasn't worked out quite the way he would have wanted. He still maintains a good position, and if things work out, he will be guaranteed a top 5 after all this, but still, you can see that he is struggling with that thing at the moment.
Yeah, I think that damage is probably hurting him more as the tyre wear goes. So maybe at the start of the stint with fresh tyres, it's not quite as severe and not quite as tough to drive, but once you are getting out there with worn Dunlops around Mount Panorama are hard enough to handle anyway, but with damage on your car, they get really, really unforgiving. But last lap by, Matthew Clote was actually quite quick, a 6.3, 6.8 for Ben and a 6.6 for Stevens, a 6.8 for Mole. So Clote's pace was very, very good last lap, but this lap just hasn't got any pace at all. Through goes Ben.
And right there, you saw he's recognizing that lack of pace, and Ben was just let through.
Wondering if Clote's actually going to come in the pits here. He's decided that the tyre wears too much. No, he's going to keep going. Really need to try and get it another 10 laps if he can. If you can stretch it out to 23 or 22 laps in this stint, we'll then be in a good spot going forward later in the race to get that track position back once again. Everyone now at the moment is in okay position to only have to do 1 more stop from here. The only driver that is in that awkward position to need 2 more stops is Alexander Sheridan. We'll see if he does come in the pits in the next lap or 2. He does continue on for this one, but wouldn't be surprised to see him come in next lap and then split it into to shorter stints. 30 laps to go for our race leader Josh Nowak as he comes down into the chase for the 51st time. Almost done a third of a Bathurst 1000, almost done 333 Ks.
Yeah.
About 310 Ks complete in this race. It's really flying by, and Nowak's led all but 2 laps in this race.
He certainly has, and you know, Nowak's pace once again has been just endless 205s. I've just gone back to check, and he's only dipped into the 206s, I think, maybe 3 times in terms of flying laps. Other than that, it's all been 205s. He's just been an absolute machine.
So, been absolutely on fire, and I think that we could hopefully see Nowak do a little bit more V8 supercar racing based on his current pace, because it's a car that he openly admitted that he doesn't feel too comfortable driving, but he actually said to us pre-race that he doesn't even think he's going to finish the race. Well, not only is he looking like he should finish the race, he's doing it quite dominantly at the moment. It's Daryl Hockey back in the pits. What has happened to Daryl? This is unscheduled for him. I think he's had an issue and he's had to escape back to the pits. He's blown the engine.
Oh, no.
Skyline, he's blown the engine.
Oh. That is... I don't know what to say. I mean, Daryl Hockey, he's been one of the paciest looking guys all race, but it just has not gone his way.
Probably a little bit of lapsing concentration, because he also clipped the wall at Metal Grate, dropped it down too many gears, bang, there it goes at the S's, and she's a tough old ride back to the pits from there, and also has used his spare car, so that's unfortunately looks like it will be race done for Daryl Hockey, not the way he wanted to end this Bathurst 500.
You know, it didn't even seem like it was that bad of a downshift, the one that eventually blew the engine. So I think that problem may have been brewing for some time. Daryl Hockey now out.
Possibly from a bit of damage you might have sustained earlier. Could have been causing the car to overheat a little bit. You don't really know how that all plays out, as we've just seen a pass there. Matthias Magnussen through on Alexander Sheridan. Magnussen is out of sequence a little bit as well. Sheridan, as we know, is on old tyres, out of sequence and really out of position from where he should be, running that different strategy from that damage earlier. But Magnussen, we saw he had great pace early on in the race. He just got caught out at the wrong spot, wrong time involved, and now trying to work his way back forward again. Good to see his pace is right up there again as well. He's doing very, very good lap times. The 206 is pretty much every lap, which is really, really good pace, and great to see him doing a good job at the moment.
Yeah, exactly right. And I suppose you could say that for quite a lot of the field. The amount of consistency that we've seen from these guys, you know, the outright pace may not be similar to what we see from the likes of V8 Scots, etc., but you can definitely tell that these guys have managed to put the time and effort into understanding this car so they can complete laps consistently.
Just went to talk to you and realised I turned my microphone off just when we thought that battle between Jonathan Ben and Matthew Clote was over, and Clote was going to let Ben go. Have a look at the lap time last lap by. Clote 2:07.0, Ben 2:07.2. The lap previous, Clote was also quicker, so Clote might have just made an adjustment in the car, just adjusting the anti-roll bars a little bit, maybe changing some brake bias settings, and feeling a little bit more comfortable in saying that, just jumped on board and saw how sideways he was at the exit there.
I bet you it's the draft.
Probably that too.
Yeah, the draft is likely what's going on here.
Oh, no!
Oh, okay, so...
Well, draft won't help that one.
No, certainly won't. Is he gonna... Yep, there we go. He's on his lid. Wow. That is really unfortunate. And that all happened from Clote just getting on the throttle a little too spiritedly out of the cutting. And he was not able to avoid that tyre bundle. Another tyre bundle that juts out.
And do you know what the funny thing is, Reese? Have a look at what lap we're up to. As we said, around about 50 laps is where guys get that limit.
Yeah.
We're now into that next phase where guys really don't do this many laps back to back to back around this circuit. Concentration levels starting to drop. Starting to feel a bit of fatigue, these guys. Starting to really feel some pressure. We're about to hit, with Nowak, if any comes across the line the next time, 54 laps, which is the minimum laps that you need to complete in a Bathurst 1000, 1/3 race distance. It's now getting into the real tough final third. These guys really need to up their concentration levels. We're over 2 hours into the race, or just on 2 hours into the race. These cars are tough to drive in this next phase.
Yeah, they definitely are. The V8 supercar already requires quite a bit of concentration to get the best out of it lap after lap, but you do over 50 laps at Bathurst in a row, and it really gets to you.
Your
I've
mind
definitely
starts to
been
wander
there.
too. Your mind really starts to wander. I know I did a Bathurst 12 hour I did in the old Australian Endurance Championship. I did the first 4 hours of that myself, and you spend. It's a track that is so mentally demanding. I couldn't function for the rest of the day just doing 4 hours in a row. So these guys are coming up to do 3 hours. No doubt they've done bucket loads of practice today. Some have done a Bathurst 1000 yesterday. Some have been driving the V8 Supercar all weekend. At this point now, the fatigue levels are really starting to set in as Sheridan comes into the pits to make his third scheduled pit stop.
Yes, indeed. So Sheridan, one of those drivers that has been in the wars in this one, but he's managed to keep the
Whoa.
car clean over the last stint. Oh,
Just saw Nowak make his first mistake in this race. And it wasn't even a big one. He just run a little bit wide at the exit of Murray's Corner. I was about to say he's got a perfect race, 0 incidents, but he's just had one there, running off the track at the exit of Murray's. But again, concentration starting to lapse as we hit into the final third.
yes, indeed. And that right there, that actual mistake that Nowak made at Murray's was something that we see quite a few people do, taking too much curb. And I guess from turning in a little bit early, because the curbs around here are actually quite substantial. We don't have, the regular racetrack style rumble strips that you see at most other racetracks. These curbs at Bathurst are actually solid painted concrete curbs, and especially at Murray's, they're very high. You hit them in the wrong way, your car goes up on 2 wheels, and you're in the wall if you're not careful.
They're not the Vallelunga curve that we would see at normal racetracks. Of course, this is a street circuit, so can't really have those out there because you'd end up with people complaining to the council that they've wrecked their car, throwing them over their curbs, trying to think that they're Peter Brock and Dick Johnson. But being flat, they are a little bit different, but they're very, very severe in some sections, and they look so inviting, just bounce it off the curb. And we see those cool shots of cars bouncing off the curbs in real life V8 supercars. Yeah, sure, they can do that at some tracks, but the way that the cars are set up around Bathurst, you can't bounce it over the curbs like that. The one at the Chase, one at Murray's Corner, and the one at Hell Corner, 3 curbs that you don't want to hit because they look inviting, but they are really, really severe.
They definitely are, and we're about to see Nowak negotiate that section of track using all of that tarmac apron on the outside. Hard on the brakes once again, and he takes a little bit of the curb and it slightly unsettles him. But that's a clean run right there.
You can see we're on board here with Nowak down the gears back to second. You can see how much that curb actually sticks up. And then that outside curb actually throws you towards the grass at the exit of Murray's Corner as you across the start line. Now back up into Hell Corner. This curb here as well also looks really inviting. You almost want to throw the front wheels completely over the curb and use the curb to throw you along, but it doesn't do that. It'll actually throw you and spit you out into the sand trap on the outside. Then there's AstroTurf and concrete out there, which is absolutely slippery and slick, so you don't want to run too wide either. Griffin's Corner here, Griffin's Bend I should say, another curb you don't want to touch because it will propel you onto that outside of the circuit. And the off-camber section, if you run out too wide there, that's race ending for a lot of drivers in the real life race and also in the sim races. It's a really easy part of the track to get wrong. Now this is probably the most enjoyable part of the track when you get it right. Up the mountain, through Reed Park, Silverwood Park, Meadow Great, McPhillamy Park. This is an awesome section of track.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a never-ending sequence of left turns, and you look at a track map and you think, oh, well, it doesn't look that interesting, but wait till you incorporate that elevation change and those curbs. It's super rewarding, especially if you come into this section, the S's and then the dipper, flat out through this left, and then you're on the brakes through the right-hander towards Forest Elbow. That is an incredibly steep bit of track, and it's very deceiving as well because at the apex, the wall actually straightens out. So you have a bit more tarmac to use on the inside than you think, but you still don't want to use too much of it.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a real deceptive area of track, and there's so many different lines through Forest Elbow, and none of them feel like you've done it right. We talked about it last night with the Bathurst 1000 that this track is Nowak just hits that curb and it unsettles the car again. Thought he was going to lose a lot of momentum there, but it's a section of track where you feel like you never get it right. In this track, you never feel like you can do a perfect lap. You always feel like there's something you could have improved, something you could have done better, and a way that you could have found another 10th or another 2 tenths or maybe another second.
Yes, indeed. And that right there is one of the things about Bathurst that I guess every driver needs to remember. It's so tempting to try and gain 1 or 2 tenths somewhere, but often you're better off just leaving it on the table and completing the lap, because one little mistake can send that lap completely out of the window.
Let's go back to a battle that we've got on track. 15th and 16th out on track are getting very, very close. John King, Brad Finley, these guys have come together in the last lap or two. King a little bit quicker over the last few laps, looking to get himself into a top 15 position and get a few more points and maybe steal a 2nd or 3rd in this overall championship. If he can get some good points in this race, he'll find himself in a good spot going into the final round.
He certainly will, and Brad Finley, judging from lap times currently, is a bit slower than King, at least over the last lap. Finley, of course, with a cleaner looking car than King as well. Finley's been one of those drivers that's flown under the radar in this race. Oh. Doesn't want to make too many more mistakes like that, though. But up until then, every time I went back to have a look at him, he'd just been lapping away, staying out of the walls, staying out of trouble. That's what you got to do. And he's got +5 on his starting position for that.
More important to stay out of trouble than to be absolutely bullet quick around the Mount Panorama circuit, because those walls, the edge of the circuit, the curbs, they all want to absolutely destroy his King. Massive lockup, just kept it out of the back of the 09.
And King, I think, is starting to test the limits of what his car can do there. Finley's just continuing to lap away, actually setting a 2:08.7. Very impressive lap time that time round. He's been hovering in and around the 2:08s and 2:09s over the course of these last couple of stints. So himself and King definitely be coming together soon, but King has something to fight for here. Finley, of course, is up on his starting position of 20th, but King will be wanting to reclaim his starting position of 15th.
Yep. At the moment, with the way that the DNFs have happened, we've got 6 drivers who appear to be out of the race. King is the only driver down on his starting position, so he'll be wanting to redeem that for sure. He's got Magnussen in his starting position, and everybody else in the field other than King and Magnussen are up from where they started, which I don't think I've ever seen in a race before. Every single car in the field be up from where they started.
Yeah. That is interesting. Yeah, I guess that just goes to show the interesting nature of a few of the retirements from this one, particularly, of course, Jackson Harlow, who didn't even start, and he was on pole. So
yeah,
obviously his hardware giving up the ghost, it seemed, in that one.
Yeah, well, I think that goes back to what we were talking about yesterday with him, and he had those tech issues. He had a steering wheel failure, which basically took him out of the race, and unfortunately he took another car with him when his wheel decided to misbehave on him. I'm going to guess that he wasn't able to get those issues redeemed for today's race, and that's why he was in the session but not able to actually take the grid. It's disappointing for him because he was on for a good result and probably deserved a good result after the way that he drove that first couple of stints yesterday as well.
Yes, indeed. Harlow's definitely shown himself to be one of the top drivers in this field in the major series. King now right onto the back of Finley, I'm just noticing, as Noack is bearing down on them to put them another lap down. Oh no, King! There we go, right around. And that was an interesting incident. It looks like the car just snapped on him. Oh, and he's really overdone the backing out to try and get back going again.
CPR replay on screen. Big thanks to CPR Kart Parts for their continued support of us here at V8's Online as well. Thanks to Paul and the entire crew at CPR Kart Parts. But yeah, disappointing way for King to end that battle. And again, that was that curb. Again, Reese, just clip that curb at Hull Corner. Doesn't like being touched, that curb.
No, definitely doesn't.
Oh, and yeah, I just saw what you're talking about with his reversing. He, talk about backing it into the wall. That was quite literal.
Yeah, it's almost as if the throttle got briefly stuck. Not quite sure what happened there, but yeah. He's managed to get back going, but not without a bit more damage than he would have liked.
Board with Pateklis as he tries to get up onto the rear of Martin Helen, and Pateklis pitted about 10 laps ago. We saw him in that battle with Joseph Cardamone, but he's dropped a fair way behind now, has Pateklis, so he had a very, very long pit stop when he did come in for his pit stop. He was stopped for around about an extra 30 seconds from most of the other drivers in the field, so I'm going to get some sort of issue in the pit stop, and maybe some sort of penalty, and just behind him is Dean Mole. Mole's doing a great job. Currently in 4th position. I don't think he would have been expecting that at the start of this race.
No, definitely not. Dean Mole, another one of those quiet achievers in this series. He doesn't always qualify the best, but in the races he seems to definitely come out on or near top. Just through staying out of trouble and staying consistent. And that's been a real, I think, strength, a highlight of his campaign in the international division so far. Started 9th, up in 4th, doing well right now.
And still by far the best livery we have seen in the entirety of the major series. Once again, the Indy car was amazing. Every car actually he's done with his kids getting the crayons out have been amazing, and well done to Dean for doing it once again. We have loved every single one of your liveries that have been like this, and they've also been very, very good luck charms for him too, so he usually runs quite well when he's got the crayons on the car.
Yeah, definitely has. The crayon, I'm trying to come up with an alliterative word beginning with C, but I cannot.
What about the Crayola car?
Crayola car.
No, that's pretty bad, isn't it?
That's terrible.
Is that bad? It's good or not?
Resignation. I'm handing in my resignation.
Sorry, Rich, you got to come and visit next week. Sorry, mate.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess I'll hand in my 2 weeks then.
That's right. It means you can still be here for the final round in 2 weeks' time, because that's going to be a very, very entertaining finish to this championship. In 2 weeks' time, we head to Myrtle Beach. What is going on? Why have we got an upper? Oh, that's a strange spot to be in. Look at the damage to the front of that car.
Ooh.
They just got straight ahead at the chase. Had some sort of issue.
No, I think he locked up the rears. He locked up the rears and just went straight into the wall on the right-hand side. And he's just going to go straight into the pits after that one.
Oh, I think he might have just outbroke himself a little bit and decided to put a little bit extra brake pressure in. It's not what you want to do. Yeah. Disappointing for him. He was doing a good job, but hopefully he's still got a spare car and can get back out there. Pitting now is not the worst thing, because 22 laps to the end of the race.
Yeah,
you've got a spare car, you can fuel up and get it home. So let's see, no spare car, unfortunately, so he's going to have a tough ask to get it home. Robert Northway still going on. This is Northway's longest stint in this race. He's currently on lap 19, so maybe he's made an adjustment to the car so it feels a little bit better from what he had been using earlier. But good to see Northway continuing on, and he's back on strategy with everyone else around him. 18 seconds to the car ahead of Magnussen. Jonathan Ben is behind him, 9 seconds back, but Ben has made his final stop.
Yeah, so Jonathan Ben is on course here to jump these two before the end of the race, so it'll be interesting to see. Middlefinger have had one of those races that's been the highest of ups and the lowest of downs, it seems. They've had their races in jeopardy more than once. They've found themselves in quite good running positions, but again, they've had that horrendous luck befall them, especially in the cases of Harlow and of Clote.
Yeah, those guys haven't had a great race, but Stevens and Ben both have done a really good job keeping it out of trouble. Ben, a little bit of damage to his car, but he's still looking really, really strong, and the pace he's got is still quite good. Out there already fueled up, ready to get it home. Nowak with a 37-second lead. Stevens 40 seconds behind Baker for second and third. Dean Mole 15 seconds further back. Now, apologies again for the timing issues. Our ticker not showing the gaps to leader like we would normally have. Looks like there's some sort of weird iRacing issue because my overlay software isn't even receiving that data tonight. So also had a colleague also test it out and not getting that data as well. So some sort of weird glitch tonight, unfortunately, but I think we've made it work reasonably okay.
Yeah, I definitely think so. We've managed to get the vision out there, and
That's the most important bit.
That definitely is. And this is this whole season, I think, definitely has been one of the stories of our year, Jay.
Yeah, it's been probably the most entertaining series that we've had. We've had some races where the mid part of the race has just sort of been a little bit of a... I'm not going to say boring because that's not the right word. It's just been building up to something, and then all of a sudden the last 5 laps come and it literally explodes. And I feel like that something's going to happen here. Once we get through all of these final pit stops, we're going to see someone make a mistake at the pit stop, someone's going to overfill the car, someone's going to get a speeding penalty, and it's going to change the whole complexion in this last stint. Because that's what we've seen all season. It's happened in every single race that we've had in this season.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking constantly around this field to see what kind of incident that might be, because you know we've got a few brewing. Of course, we've got the gap between Nowak and Baker, which is stretched out to almost 40 seconds now. If something were to happen to Nowak at this point, touch wood, then that would really bring the contention for the win back into so. I'm trying to string a sentence together here, Jay, but I'm having a lot of trouble.
Well, I'll save you right now because Joseph Cardamone has come on to Mountain Straight, and straight out of the pits, Robert Northway was there to meet him, then nose to tail, and Northway, I'm wondering, might have just clipped the wall, definitely bounced it off the curb, coming out of Griffin's Bend and heading up the mountain to Reed Park. Looks like he might have got away with it, but this is very, very close here.
Definitely. Cardamone right behind Northway coming through the S's. Just seems like he's using the brakes a little bit less than Northway, or at least in a more stabby fashion, I guess you could say, because Northway's brake lights stayed on the entire time down the hill at that point. Cardamone, though, was going on the brakes, off the brakes, on the brakes, off the brakes, all the way down through the S's. So you can see the different driving styles at play there. Cardamone looks like he has a bit of a run down Conrod, but he's just lifting off. I could just hear in his engine note. Northway, though,
Northway.
That's a problem. Big problem for Northway. Is he going to jump back onto the circuit? Well, no incident there, but Cardamone is tempted now to throw it up the inside. Away he goes. Robert Northway. Oh, he's going to come back at him, though. Cardamone did not get the optimum exit from there at all.
No, and somehow I'm surprised that Northway is still able to go at full speed. I thought he would have had a black flag slowdown, but he may not. Oh, contact! No. Oh, this is exactly what we were talking about. Something was brewing. Something's going to heat up. These guys are going at it. This is for 8th position.
Yeah, and Northway is just going to slot back in behind here. He may not be able to fire one up the inside. Oh, he's going to anyway, and Joseph Cardamone trying his best to defend, but off into the marbles, and he is back behind once more. But you know what? We know that he is quicker than Northway and more consistent than Northway, so this is not over yet.
No, it's not, but the big issue that Cardamone has is he still has to make his final pit stop. It will be a very, very short one, but he needs to clear Northway here and break away, start to close that gap to Sheridan ahead, who he will be fighting for. Sheridan also has to make one more stop, but it is a splash and dash. Cardamone needs to get clear before he makes his final stop.
Yeah, he definitely does, and he's not going entirely to plan This could really hurt him coming up to the final laps of this race. He's on lap 62 right now. There's 4 cars remaining on the lead lap right now. Just goes to show the pace and consistency that the likes of Noack, Baker, and Stevens have had is just immense.
Yeah, it's really, really amazing pace that they have had. Mole and Ben will likely get the lead lap back, or be very, very close to Baker. Into the pits. He's got damage to the right-hand side of the car.
He has. May have just clipped a wall across the top of the mountain. We go back a bit and see what happened. Looks like it happened some time ago.
Okay.
At least a lap and a half before. So he's been carrying that for a while.
All right, so we won't worry about going back for a replay, but we will go to Shane Bowen versus Trevor Mack. These guys going at it at the moment, and this is looking pretty intense. Bowen, who has not long come out of the pits, he'll be wanting to get some clear track and move on up the road.
Yep, he will. Trevor Mack, way up on his starting position. The biggest mover in the field so far, as you said before, Jay. But Shane Bowen will be wanting to gain some positions back as well. He's currently running in his starting position of 11th place. He's got a bit of a run here. Mack, I think, is just letting him go.
Yeah, I think there's no point fighting too hard. The lap pace difference between these two cars is pretty extreme. So Bowen through, Mack back to 11th. But Mack done a very, very good job, regardless of how this race plays out. You should be very, very happy with how this race has gone. He currently in 11th, started in 21st. If he can finish in the top 12, I think that's as good as a win for where he started, considering there's no safety cars or any of that sort of stuff. So Trevor Mack doing a really good job.
Yeah, certainly. And he's carrying a couple of dents on that thing, but he's managed to keep it going, and that is 100% the main thing.
Josh Noack has crossed the start line. 17 laps to go in this race. So he starts lap number 65. Currently leads by 1 minute and 22 seconds from Daniel Stevens. Zach Baker is another 13 seconds back from Stevens. Just come out of the pits. So he's fueled up and able to bring it home. He has also used his spare car by the looks of things, because he did not get that damage fixed. I'll tell you what, that's commitment coming across the top of the mountain.
Yeah, definitely is. Zach Baker, as I said at the start of the race, he has been racing the V8 for quite a few years now, and he has that car worked out. He knows where to place it. He knows how to get the pace out of it. And have a look at how close he ran to the wall on the exit of the elbow there. That was brilliant.
See who our next to pit is. Will we see Noack respond to Baker on this lap? Only 16 laps to go when he comes down to the start line. I'm going to say he'll come in this lap, maybe the next one, but I think it'll be this one. And try and make sure to negate that advantage that Baker will have, even though he's got a 35-second lead or so. Don't want to give any real advantage and give a free kick to someone behind you when they've got fresh tyres. Doesn't matter how big your lead is, you don't want to give that up.
Yeah, definitely not. It's always best to try and play it safe in terms of this strategy. As you said, Noack has quite a bit of time to play with here, but it doesn't mean he can afford to relax.
No, and if he starts to relax too, that's when you can start to make mistakes. If you start to get a little bit complacent, lapse concentration a little bit while you start to enjoy things and relax, this track will bite you every single time, and you've got to keep your concentration levels at 110% for the entire race. He's got around about 34 minutes of racing to go. Needs to make sure he stays focused for that entire time.
Yes, indeed. Noack just completing yet another 2:05.
So consistent, isn't he? He's doing a great job in regards to lap pace. Yeah, the weather conditions really do suit for really good lap times, but even still, just to stay consistent over the stint length as well. We've seen in the past iRacing build for the V8 supercar, the supercar tyre wear has gone to a bigger extreme over previous seasons. So the drop-off is usually quite a bit more severe, but Noack's doing a really good job of maintaining the pace throughout the entirety of the stint. And I think that's a really, really tough thing to do around a tough track like this, to maintain the pace is really, really hard. It's okay to have one lap pace. He makes a big mistake coming up through Metal Grade. He did a good job to recover that. But his pace over the entirety of a stint is so consistent, which I think is more important in regards to setup than having an absolute one lap quick car.
Exactly right. Daniel Stevens bringing the 66 car into the pits. So Baker is going to get that position back. Daniel Stevens has kept that car remarkably clean, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He's done a great job. We're going to jump back to Jonathan Ben and see if Ben can jump Stevens in this pit stop. These two are battling for position before Ben jumped into the pits. Of course, 7 laps earlier for Ben, he did have to take on a little bit different of a fuel load from Stevens. We'll see if Stevens can get this fuel number right and if he can stay ahead of his teammate. Stevens still stopped, probably needs to take on about 27 seconds worth of fuel. If he takes any more than that, he might find himself in a little bit of trouble and a little bit open to a possible passing opportunity for Ben. As also into the pits comes our race leader in Josh Nowak.
Yep, Nowak in, and Jonathan Ben making his way through Murray's corner as Daniel Stevens exits the pits. So that's that position safe for Stevens.
Yep, he'll hold on to third position for now. It looks like it's going to be around about 12 seconds separating Ben and Stevens. We'll get the live gap as they head up Mountain Straight. 10.9, it'll probably be about 10.3 by the end of Mountain Straight. Also, Dean Mole also gets back onto the lead lap as well. So we now have 5 cars back on the lead lap. Actually, we've got 6 because Magnussen is closing in on the tail of Dean Mole here. They're both not long out of the pits. But Magnussen, his pace has been pretty good throughout this race. He, of course, just done his outlap there, so not going to have a really good gauge on his pace. But lap times look pretty good from Magnussen.
Yeah, they definitely do. He's been very consistent in low 207s, high 206s, and that's pretty impressive, especially considering, he did the 1000 yesterday, so he may very well be utterly sick of this track by now and this car.
We will never be sick of this track though. This is our holy grail. This is our Daytona, Le Mans, our Monaco all rolled into one.
Yeah, Spa and Suzuka as well.
Silverstone, Indy.
Silverstone, Indy, yes. You can name every track in the world, and Bathurst has a bit of it. Yeah,
literally every track in the world. This is our whatever track you want to use as a superlative. We'll counteract it with Mount Panorama, track that doesn't even need to be known by its real name to be known what it is. You just say the Mount, and anyone in Australian racing knows what you were talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Don't even have to say mountain, just Mount.
Yeah, Mount. Exactly. Even just Bathurst, people don't immediately think you're talking about the town. I think you're talking about the circuit.
The racetrack. Well,
yeah.
Isn't that all that Bathurst is known for, is for the racetrack? I mean, I shouldn't say that. We've got friends that live in Bathurst, so we don't want to pick on it too much. And we'll say that Bathurst is actually a very, very beautiful town. It's a very, very beautiful area of country New South Wales, and actually have a really cool dinosaur museum. Did you know that, Reese?
No, I did not. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there's also some, not far up the road, Orange as well. Also some really, really cool stuff in Orange. We stayed in Orange when we went to the Bathurst 12 Hour with the Clark family. The Sandman family will be better known to a lot of people out there. Our good friend here at Vouts Online, Sandman, who, if you haven't seen any of our older broadcasts, they are very, very fantastic with Sandman's commentary. He'll be with us on the weekend at the VSR Showdown. But yeah, so some really, really cool things around Bathurst that are real, literal hidden gems.
Yes, indeed. And there's a lot of history in the area as well. I did mention in the 1000 yesterday about how there's been open road racing going on in the Bathurst area since 1906, and you can still drive the roads that make up those old circuits. There was one particular one, the Mount Horrible or Sunny Corner circuit, that uses Great Western Highway on the approach to Bathurst from Sydney, and makes a hard right turn at Kelso, just next to Bathurst, and then goes all the way up to Palmer's Oakey, and it twists and turns through the farmland and the national park to create a 100-kilometre loop. That was a circuit that was used in the 1920s, I believe.
Of course, around there too, there's a lot of motor racing history. Of course, there was a track that once held the Australian Grand Prix in the town of Orange, which is only 50 kilometres down the road as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So motor racing has been a part of this region of the world just about from the very beginning of the automobile age. So if you want to come around to Bathurst, don't just come here for the track. Check out the town as well. Check out the surrounds. There's a lot more here than you might think. And they've got Tommy's restaurant as well.
Yes, Tommy's.
That's a nice place.
We will talk up Tommy's. We've been lucky enough to go to Tommy's. We actually filmed an episode of Short Shift together at Tommy's, which you can see on our channel here at Vans Online, and get to see myself, Sam, Ben, and Reese have a bit of a chat about all different sorts of things. But just going to draw our attention back to the race for a minute. Josh Nowak has just done the fastest lap of the race, 2:04.6. No surprise, fresh tyres, smaller fuel load. No real surprise to see a PB or a fastest lap at this point of the race. But that track we were talking about in Orange as well, I don't know if you know too much about this yourself, Reese. Do you know the New Blast racing circuit, which is around the hospital, the middle of the hospital in Orange? You can also drive around this circuit, which is only 50 kilometres away from Bathurst. It's an amazing track, and it basically takes some trails out in the middle of nowhere, and in the middle of it is literally the Orange Hospital, which is the big regional hospital in the area. So New Blast is an amazing track as well. It was only around for about 7 or 8 years, but a lot of history there, and Jack Brabham did win the first Grand Prix held there.
Yeah, New Blast definitely rings a bell, and I remember driving a user-created version of it in other sims, which is always interesting to see. So yeah, I didn't know it was in Orange.
Yes,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So next time you go to Bathurst, you'll have to go for a drive to Orange and have a drive around the circuit there, and say that we did do that, and some really, really cool history around that. We've got all the old corners all actually signed as well. But
oh, really?
Just also hearing that Tommy's is gone, Reese.
Really?
No, it can't be gone. No, it can't be gone.
Oh. Well, if that's true, then that's heartbreaking.
That was our favourite place to go to, Tommy's Tex-Mex restaurant.
That's a real shame. Zach Baker, meanwhile, trying to make his way past Brad Fenley across the top of the mountain, Jay, as we deal with
we got a race going on.
With our sorrow and grief. Yeah, I know. Tommy's is closed.
I'm actually quite sad about that.
What even is sim racing anymore?
We'll have to find somewhere else to go to next time we're at Bathurst, because I don't think anything could replace how amazing that place was. But yeah, John King out of the pits, Brad Finley out of the pits as well. So these guys are going at it, and also Nowak's just done another fastest lap of the race too, Reese.
Yes, indeed. Josh Nowak, 2:04.636. He's really pulling out the pace in this last stint. He's on lap 70. So he's only got, I'd say, 11 2/3 laps to go at this exact point on the circuit. And you can tell he's very comfortable, very pacey.
Someone said he might need to go to the toilet. That's why he's punching out PB, so that's always possible. We've only got one car left to pit. Pateklis will be the last car to pit and cleanse his field to get us home. We'll have 11 laps to go when he comes across the line next time. Back to 6 cars on the lead lap as well. It looks like it will stay that way based on the current pace of most of the field, but last lap by Nowak, 2:04.6. The next fastest car, is Daniel Stevens at 2:06.7. 2.1 seconds quicker than anywhere else.
Wow. I mean, I don't even have a response to that. Like, Nowak, and this is really just the the story of his entire season, isn't it? You know, he has a fair amount of self-doubt. We definitely know that.
He talks himself down a lot, doesn't he?
He does. He does talk himself down quite a bit, but and obviously the start of his season was not you know, absolutely 100% golden the whole way through. John King, you got to remember, did lead the championship in the early stages of the season, but Nowak, coming up to the mid-season and the end of the season, has turned it up and has shown himself to be one of the class drivers of this field, and the story of this race really mirrors that. He talked himself down coming into this race, but he started out nice and strong, and right here at the end, he's doing laps that would make anyone envious.
Need to try and talk him up to getting back into the V8 Scops grid. I know he did make his debut in V8 Scops earlier this year, but I think the pace that he's got, he could definitely be a contender and hover around that top 20 mark, which he actually got, I think, from memory, a top 20 in his debut in V8 Scops, did Josh Nowak. So hopefully we'll see him out there and racing the V8 a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely
His
hope
commitment
so.
levels are really, really good. He's on not quite the limit. He's just on the level that you need to be at this circuit. You're just pushing hard, but not pushing too hard.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the lap times are coming to him, aren't they?
Well, the pace has definitely improved as the race has gone on. He's just looking so much more comfortable. He's in a rhythm now. He's done a really good job manoeuvring himself around the lap traffic too. He's not forcing anything once he gets to lap traffic. He's just waiting for the right spot. He's giving them enough room to try and work out where they want to go. If they want to let him through, he's giving them enough space to be able to make that decision as well. So the traffic management is as much of a key to his good driving at the moment as his actual outright pace.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, once he crosses the line here, it will be 10 laps to go for our race leader in car 73.
Just going to alert you to a little bit of a battle. It is starting to brew. Jonathan Ben's pace has dropped. He just did a 2:10 and now a 2:08. Dean Mole behind has got that gap down to 6.5 seconds, and Matthias Magnussen behind is only 1.6 seconds behind Mole. So we're going to have three cars pretty close together with not long to go in this race. Ben is starting to feel the pressure from behind looking at the lap times, but Magnussen on Mole is getting very, very heated.
Yeah, he definitely is, and that's something that happens all the time in these races, doesn't it, Jay? We talked about it before, and it's happening again. It's all coming together right at the end.
It looks like nothing is happening in the race. Oh, this is all settled. This is getting a little bit predictable, a little bit monotonous, and then bang, all of a sudden everything just takes off. We've got battles here, battles there, guys working different strategies. Everything's all falling into place. Everyone knows what everyone else is doing now, and then all of a sudden it all takes off. Magnussen's looking really, really quick at the moment. The current pace that he's got, he might be able to steal fourth position, especially with Ben looking like he might have a little bit of damage to his car. He's dropped half a second to Mole on this lap. That front right-hand side of the car does not look too healthy in Jonathan Ben's car.
No, certainly doesn't, and I've just gone back to see what caused his drop in pace. At the chase on lap 69, just pinched the rear brakes and did well to save it, but of course lost quite a bit of time.
Yep, no, it cost him about 8 seconds in total, 4 and then a couple of 2-second laps off the pace, and he's still off the pace now. So Magnussen, though, he looks really, really quick. Have a look at how close he's closing that gap up to Dean Mole.
That is crazy. 2:06.5 on the last lap versus 2:07.6 from Mole. He's continuing to push very hard as the race enters its final stages. So Mole, I think, will definitely be happy with his finishing position, regardless of whether he gets passed by Magnussen or not. But that still doesn't take anything away from the fact that this late race charge from Magnussen is quite impressive.
Yeah, 100%. He's doing a great job, and the car's definitely suiting his style late in this stint. He's only put 30 seconds of fuel in the last stop, so that means that the car a little bit lighter with the fresh tyres, which helps the pace, especially for the guys that are quite comfortable driving the cars with a big fuel load. They get the car out there with fresh tyres and lower fuel, and then bang on the pace straight away. The issue these guys have got is Josh Nowak is closing up on them at a relatively fast race. You can see them in the same shot there as Nowak. Cool. So these guys could go a lap down. They could start fighting just as Nowak gets to them too. So depending on how this fight goes, we could see Nowak actually cause or get involved in the fight. Unintentionally, of course. He won't want to get too involved in it because that could mess the fight up. But what that could also do, it means that these guys have got one lap less to battle it out if he does get through.
Yeah, that's right. And time is really of the essence when it comes to these dying stages of a race. You don't want to have that one less lap to work with because that's obviously around a circuit like this 23 less chances to get a leg up on your rival. Magnussen's
in the draft coming out of Forest Elbow here, so this is on. I'm going to say Griffin's bed next lap. We could see a potential pass. Have a look at how close he will get coming into the chase here. Won't be close enough to get it done then, but he'll get the advantage down the front straight and also back up Mountain Straight. Gained 3/10 just coming down into the chase. Yeah, and even more under brakes.
Oh my goodness, he has got those brakes absolutely worked out. Dean Moll is keeping it nice and smooth in car 31, but Matthias Magnussen is right there now, within a few car lengths.
And they've also dropped a second to Ben as well, so he's only 4 seconds up the road, 4.5 seconds up the road. So Ben's got to be careful. He's going to be watching in his mirrors, watching what these guys are doing. If this pass is made relatively easy, which looking at the current pace, you'd think that it won't be too hard for Magnussen, Ben's going to have to start thinking about what's going to happen behind, and he'll be in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, he will. Magnussen is going to go for the inside at Griffin's. Is Moll going to fight it? Yes, he is.
Watch out!
He's just a bit too wide, and that is move done for Matthias Magnussen. So now Jonathan Ben is his next target.
And that was exactly what we've been talking about, running wide and defending that outside line at Griffin's Bend. The way that the road shoots away, D-Mole would have got a little heart attack there and thought he was heading straight for the fence, as we've seen in so many races before. Did a good job to keep it out of the fence, but Magnussen already on the charge. He's now got it down to 4.7 seconds. He's gained half a second since he's gone past Mole, and it's closing quickly.
Yep, certainly is. He's now that he's past Mole, he is absolutely right on it. The problem is he won't have a draft to work with after this point, at least unless he can catch up to Ben in a reasonable time frame. Down Conrad Straight, though.
What's happened to Nowak? Nowak's in the fence!
Oh my god, no! Oh, goodness me, that could change everything. What happened to him? Oh, he's been stopped for quite some time.
Lost it at the dipper.
Yeah. Did he actually make contact with the wall?
Don't know.
Or maybe just slightly. I mean, he maintains the lead from Zach Baker, but goodness me, that is not what you want to see.
Wow, I saw the speed on the live timing say 0. I'm like, what has happened to him? Because that's uncharacteristic. But as we've been saying for so long in this race, it's so easy to make a mistake around here. Have a look at this on board with Pateklis too. He would have got a little mini heart attack, not expecting the leader to be facing the wrong way. But come around the corner here, blind. Oh, there's smoke, hang on, watch out. There's the leader facing the wrong way. Gets through okay, and Nowak will be at a bit of an elevated heart rate right now.
Yeah, certainly. He's only got a few laps to go. He just needs to keep it together for 6, 7 more laps.
Yep, 7 laps to go, so not long to go.
Yes, indeed. So, honestly, his best bet is to not try to push. Maybe he wasn't trying to push and just lost concentration slightly.
And as I was just saying before, if you start to get into too much of a relaxed mindset, you can lose so much ground. Have a look at the gap, though, between Magnussen and Ben. Magnussen has got it down to 2 seconds. He's gained 2 seconds in a lap.
Wow. Yeah, right. And Jonathan Ben actually running off the track there at the exit of McPhillamy, so that is going to help out Magnussen even more. He's only a corner away.
What a drive from Magnussen to get himself up the field in the second phase, or the final phase of this race. Right on board with him down Conrad Straight, and watch this gap just close and close so quickly. Also got Adam McLeod in the pits. He looks like he might be out of the race. We'll get a replay of that in a moment. Actually, we'll quickly get a replay of that now because we're not going to see a pass yet. But McLeod looks like he is out of the race, and we'll try and work out exactly what happened.
Big incident. Yeah, lap 73 through Reed and Sulman. Actually got caught on the grass and then fishtailed. Big hit in the wall.
Oh, just a slow, lazy spin, and then around it went. And reversing back down the bounce, never a fun thing to do, so you might as well get out of it. Good job from Daniel Stevens to avoid the contact there too. So we come back live. It is on for 4th and 5th right now.
Yes, indeed. Dean Moll two-wheeling it in the background out of Murray's corner. But Jonathan Ben is now under immense pressure from Matthias Magnussen. Oh, trying to push the exit as much as he can. Oh, look out! Oh, they're going to make rear-end contact. Oh, and Jonathan Ben into the wall. We didn't want to see it end that way.
No, that's disappointing for both of those guys. Sure, Matthias Magnussen will not be happy that he actually made contact there, but I don't think he knew which way to go. You can see him on the brakes. He's like, oh, which way do I go? Which way do I go? And then all of a sudden, Ben got it corrected a little. By then, it was a bit too late, and Magnussen just ran into the rear. No malice involved in that one. Magnussen just didn't know what to do.
Yeah, Magnussen was already committed to veering to the right once Ben had straightened himself up. There was space on the left-hand side, but yeah, I think in Magnussen's position, we'd probably have done the same thing. We would have thought that Ben would have continued off to the left.
Great news, race. 074 is back out on the circuit. Daryl Hockey's got back out on the track.
Excellent.
Great to see.
And 11 laps down, but that means that he's going to still be classified at the end.
Yep, which is great to see. He actually isn't too far off. He's got 7 laps to gain a position. Doesn't look like he will gain a position, but as you said, getting classified in these races is an achievement. Finishing a race at Bathurst is a huge achievement. So to get back out there, we love this sort of thing. This is what we love about these races, getting back out there and having a crack and having some fun. And he's going to be able to finish a Bathurst race, fingers crossed. We'll now go back to Josh Nowak. Just got Jonathan Ben ahead. It looks like Ben will go a lap down here now with that extra damage. But sort of heart bleeds a little bit for him. You feel for him, don't you? He's hasn't had a great day out on track, as Jonathan Ben.
No, certainly not. And you can say the same for most of the Middle Finger Racing squad, can't you?
Most. Stevens will be quite happy with his result as Nowak, another big moment.
Yeah, too much curb in Murray's corner once again. Got to be careful of that.
5 laps to go now, so just on 10 minutes of racing left for Josh Nowak to bring this one home. This will be the most nervous 5 laps of Mount Panorama, most nervous 30 kilometres of driving he has done all season.
Yeah, exactly right, because this right here is what is going to seal him the International Division Drivers title. And it's going to be a great conclusion to, I think, what would be a fantastic year for Nowak. Of course, the championship is not actually over in terms of races left to run, but when Nowak crosses the line, this is going to be what seals the Mario Andretti Trophy for him.
Massive achievement too to be the first international region winner of the Mario Andretti Trophy for the major series.
Yeah, exactly right. So history being made in terms of international sim racing here. Nowak, you can see, since setting those fast times, he's calmed back down a little bit, setting 2:05s.
A little bit less
again.
alien time.
Yes. which I think is exactly what he needs to be doing right now.
Yeah, just enjoy the moment too. He needs to enjoy this moment because you never will have another first time when you win a championship of this sort of prestige as well. So to be the inaugural champion, this is a moment he really needs to settle down and enjoy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he looks very comfortable out there once again.
4 to go for him now. 24 kilometres around this Mount Panorama Scenic Drive. Comes up the pit straight. Turn left, up Mountain Straight. See the mansion off to the left, and coming up on the right, on the right is the mansion, and on the left up ahead here there is the Bathurst Winery. Another house on the right, and then through here there's also bed and breakfast there on the right, which on the left I should say, which is also very, very busy every single race weekend. And another property up the hill on the left, a property off the road there to the right, and then another one there at the Monster Energy sign. Through cutting with the tennis courts off to the right hand side, another beautiful house on the right, and then you come up towards the campgrounds. No permanent residents here, lots of kangaroos and lots of people for a race weekend up here, Race.
Yes, indeed, and it's almost a shame that iRacing didn't bring its laser scanning equipment to one of the zoos to scan some kangaroos.
Maybe
so
we should ask them to do that.
Possibly, because kangaroos have always been a bit of a factor in races around Bathurst. A stray kangaroo can bring out a safety car, so you never know. Just a randomly generated kangaroo hopping across the track up the top. The yellow flag is out.
Watch out for the roo on the track.
Yeah.
They've spotted a kangaroo. You can imagine that too, couldn't you?
Yeah.
But the top of the mountain is amazing. If you've never ever been, it is definitely something you should have on your bucket list. You don't even have to go on a race weekend to feel the aura of this place. It's amazing.
Yeah, it certainly is. Even on a non-race weekend, just being there in the presence of all the history is enough to really make it an awesome experience.
Just been asked for a little bit of trivia. Is that Noack has another massive moment. We'll jump back on board for Noack while we go through these final 3 laps. What event was on when they scanned the Bathurst track, and what is on the scan that shouldn't be there? Well, there's a couple of things on the track, or on the track for a race meeting that is not normally there, and you just passed one of those things. So Noack just passes the 60 km/h sign, and then on the left, also a two-way sign. Those signs are removed when it is race day, so they are in the scan because at the point when there was a scan going on, they were still in the ground. So those are the things that are on the track that are not normally there for a race meeting. But for the race meeting that this was scanned at, I believe it was the 2013 Bathurst 1000.
Yeah, so quite some time ago, and the track has undergone a few minor changes since then. The run up Mountain Straight has been reprofiled ever so slightly, and also we've had on a couple of occasions, Jay, the track breaking up in real life, especially at Griffin's Bend.
Yeah, and there's also one other very, very noticeable change for the circuit now, as well as the exit of the chase. The wall has been brought closer to the edge of the track so that there's less angle as well. So if a car does run off, we saw a really, really nasty crash which pretty much ended Paul Radisic's motorsport career when he ran off the circuit at the exit of the chase. That wall has been reprofiled and straightened up so that it is less of an angle, cause less injury if a driver does run into that wall. But they're the only changes to the track that we've seen since the rescan, and essentially it's just a repave, and not much else has really changed the circuit. It's still in its format from 1987, and just here you can see from that shot there, that wall is now straight. So it's a little bit different, that area. 2 laps to go now for Noah. Just hearing it was actually when the Bathurst Hill climb was on, was when it was scanned, Bruce.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Now I'm going to have to go on. Now I'm going to have to go and look around to see the proof of why we know it was there.
Yes.
There's a tyre bundle at the dipper that is used for the hill climb that isn't there in the normal race direction. Okay, that
So that's what that. Oh, that's
Okay.
what that tire bundle's there for.
Okay, so that makes
Because remember,
sense.
we had a car run into that tire bundle earlier on in this race,
Yes.
and I couldn't help but thinking, what is that tire bundle doing there? The cars don't go anywhere near that.
Well, there you go. That's that helps explain a few things, doesn't it? That's the tyre bundle on the right-hand side coming through the dipper, which we almost saw Josh Nowak run into only a couple of laps ago.
Yes, indeed. We
Now
should be
also-
coming up to that location pretty soon.
Yep, we also see there's a few little Easter eggs around this track in the scan too. Just coming past a couple of trees here on the left-hand side of the circuit. If you actually, while you're in sim, you can actually get out there in the get the camera out and move it around. You can actually see a couple of little Ford logos that have been hammered into the trees, and the reason they're scanned in the circuit is because they're there in real life.
Yeah, that's exactly it. This track has an awful lot of history to it, especially up at Brock's Skyline. The wall has lots of graffiti, lots of little messages written from reverent fans of Peter Brock. And obviously, I was here sort of messages, and I believe they appear in Sim as well.
It's the second last time through the chase for Josh Nowak, the 80th and second to last time. Going to come past Pateklis to put him another lap down. I don't think Pateklis will mind getting lapped. It'll mean he'll have to do one lap less of this track. It's been a tough old race for a lot of drivers, but Nowak, it's been a class above the rest of the field. White flag is out. This is the final lap of the Mount Panorama Bathurst 500.
Yes, indeed. This is the penultimate round of the International Division of the Majors Series, and Uldis Puteklis is the last lapped car I believe Josh Nowak will have to contend with on his way up. Full credit to Puteklis for sticking it out. He was in the 1000 yesterday with Andris Slisans, and he's managed to get back in there, do very well for himself, up 5 positions on his start. It looks to me like Nowak's actually backed off here.
Might have even asked in game whether he wanted to do another lap or not. Some guys prefer to slow down and not have to do that other lap. Other guys want to finish as many laps as they can. So it's really up to all different sorts of personal feeling on how you want to tackle these final laps. It's always tough too when you are laps down and knowing what you want to do as well. If you're about to go one lap down, you usually want to not go that lap down and try and finish the complete race distance. But if you're already a lap down, I don't think it really matters too much. It doesn't matter if you're 2 or 3 laps down, 1, 2, 3 laps down. Finishing on the lead lap and finishing 1 or 2 laps down are completely different things, aren't they?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, Nowak only has, at this exact point, 4 turns to go before he can call himself a winner at Mount Panorama in sim racing and a winner in the International Majors Championship. What a feeling this must be for him.
And thoroughly deserved as well, because he has been the standout performer throughout this championship the whole way through. He's been so consistent, picked up wins in races that he's been very, very open in not feeling comfortable about. Picked up solid results in races that he didn't deserve good results. Congratulations, Josh Nowak, winner of the Bathurst 500, winner of the International Major Series.
Yes, indeed, and clinched it with 1 round to spare. An awesome title run from Mr. Nowak. Brilliant performance through and through. And once again, very well deserved. Zach Baker is coming down Conrod Straight, and he will take 2nd place here. Brilliant job from him as well. Had a few errors, and unfortunately was not able to match Nowak in the second half of the race, but he still comes home with a very strong 2nd place finish in what is his first appearance in the Majors Series. So congratulations to Baker on that.
Yeah, well done. We've ended up with only 4 cars on the lead lap in the end. Dean Mole did get passed by Nowak right near the end of the race, so Dean Mole will only finish 80 laps. Northway has also crossed the line to finish in 6th position, and that will help maintain his championship fight. But well done, Daniel Stevens. He's going to come along in 3rd position, and this will really help his hunt to try and steal that Sportsman Championship away from Northway and Bowen.
Yes, indeed. Stevens running a very strong race here, starting in 7th place. And he will come into Myrtle Beach with some renewed confidence and the possibility of getting an accolade of his own. He crosses the line in 3rd place to complete the podium here.
Yeah, well done to Daniel Stevens on a really good result. Matthias Magnussen not far off finishing this race as well. He's done a great job as well. The pace that he showed in this last stint has been really, really good. Only been able to be matched or bettered by one other driver in this entire field, and that's the race leader. So well done, Magnussen, on a really, really good drive. He should be very, very happy, crossing the line in 4th position.
Yes, indeed. That late race run was very impressive from Magnussen, and that is the entire field having crossed the line here. So let's run through the results. Josh Nowak coming home with the win and securing the championship with 1 round to spare. Zach Baker in 2nd, Daniel Stevens coming home in 3rd, and Matthias Magnussen, the last car on the lead lap, in 4th. Dean Moll comes home in 5th place. Another Crayon livery good luck charm. Good result for him. Jonathan Benn coming home in 6th. Robert Northway in 7th, with Alexander Sheridan 8th. Rounding out the top 10, we got Shane Bowen and Joseph Cardamone.
My apologies for the graphic being all sorts of wrong. The live timing glitches have continued. Reese, I might need you to run through the rest of the grid for me, or the field for me, because my timing is not working at all.
No worries. Trevor Mack coming home in 11th place with Aldis Patekalis in 12th. John King and Brad Fenley 2 laps down in 13th and 14th. Jake Fox and Adam McLeod in 15th and 16th. And Daryl Hockey, the last classified finisher, finishing 11th laps down in classified 17th. Martin Hallinan, Matthew Clote, Daniel Aitchison, Jason Hussey, and Jeremy Morrison, your retirements, and Jackson Suslin Harlow, despite qualifying on pole, was not able to make it to the grid.
Hopefully get some drivers in for a chat very, very soon. We've got one in already, Reese. We might drag him straight in. Go for it, Reese.
We've got Daniel Stevens from Middle Finger Racing here. Daniel, you finish P3. Excellent result. Really helps your Sportsman Championship run.
Yeah, it sure does. The goal today was to finish in front of Robert and Shane. That was just the number one thing to do, no matter what happened.
Well, coming into this round, obviously, Middle Finger Racing have had their ups and downs over the weekend, especially here at Bathurst in the 1000. You had a couple of your cars suffer problems, and there were even more problems for your teammates today.
Yeah, poor old Jackson, he tried to get his wheel fixed and he did a couple of laps and put a fast lap in as well, but his wheel just wasn't working properly, and he wasn't going to risk any other driver getting taken out, so he decided to pull the plug. But apart from that, everybody else was good to go.
Well, coming into Myrtle Beach, you obviously have some renewed confidence, and it's going to be a very tight fight between yourself, Shane Bowen, and Robert Northway for the Sportsman Division title.
Yeah, well, I'm actually not too sure if I'm going to make that round or not, because I'm actually working at the Pukekohe V8 round in a couple of weeks. So it's a 45-minute drive back to Auckland. So let's see if I make it.
Hopefully you do, because it'd be awesome to see all 3 of you there fighting it out. Before we let you go, Daniel, anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, mate, definitely you guys, V8's Online, Mike and the team at Majors. They do a great job. You guys do a great job. And Middle Finger Racing, WP Concretine, AutoKings.com, and DSP Paints.
Thank you very much for joining us, Daniel. That's Daniel Stevens there from Middle Finger Racing, your 3rd place finisher. But Jay, we're going to bring in a very special guest, because Josh Nowak is here in the commentary box with us. Josh, you have officially been declared the International Division champion in the Majors Series, sealing it with 1 round to go. How does it feel?
Oh man, it's I don't know, it's a bit I kind of thought I had it a little bit if I just kept it clean for this round with the points. So, but it's definitely a nice relief to finally have it sealed, especially after this race. This was a tough one to seal it in.
It certainly seemed that way, but you were very consistent out there in the lead for much of the race, setting some very quick, consistent lap times. So, what was going through your mind there at the moment? Was it just taking things nice and carefully and letting the laps come to you?
Yeah, pretty much. I just wanted to knock off as many laps as possible. It was gonna always be a hard race going into it. Um, Especially Zach there. He had me worried there for the first stint. If he stayed behind me after that, I definitely would have had a lot more trouble with my consistency. He had a good amount of pressure there, and it kept me busy for the first stint, definitely. And then the second and third stint, it was just try and keep consistent, keep it out of the wall. And then that last stint, a couple mistakes, and I was trying to push for a bit too hard probably, but it all turned out nicely.
Was that is that the reason that we saw you spin in the S? Is just pushing too hard?
Yeah, I was trying to beat a fastest lap, which is probably not the smartest idea towards the end of the race, but wanted to see what I could do, I guess.
Well, nonetheless, you are the champion of the international division. So Myrtle Beach, I suppose, is going to be just a nice, relaxed round for you.
Uh, I don't think so. I still want to go out there and give it my best shot. It's an oval again. I'm still not too confident with ovals. I know I've done well in two of the ovals this year, but it's still not my thing. Those have been pretty, I guess, luck based, being there at the right time for definitely Pocono. So I still want to go give it my best shot. Aim for at least a top 5. I think I can do, and yeah, I'm not going to be there just for making up numbers. That's for sure.
Well, before we let you go, Josh, who would you like to give a shout out to?
Definitely have to give a shout out to Kinetic. I came into this series as a draft member, so not even a part of their team, and they've accepted me pretty much. They've helped me along the way. John, Jake, Alex, Joe, Mateus, Christian, Eddie. I've probably forgotten a couple, which is I'm sorry, but there's so many guys. They're all a great bunch. And couldn't have done it without them. Their sponsor work either. Also have to give a shout out to Swift Racing. Eric and DJ and Joel, they also helped me along the way. Eric came and spotted for me and gave me setup tips for a couple of the races this year.
Excellent stuff. Big congratulations, Josh. We'll see you at Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, see you guys later. And thanks for the broadcast. You guys do a brilliant job.
Thank you very much, Josh. That's Josh Nowak, your newly crowned champion of the International Division of the Majors Series. Unfortunately, Zach Baker doesn't appear to be here for an interview, so we're going to wrap this up. Monday night, we've got the V8 Supercar at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, so the fun definitely does not stop at V8's Online as usual, Jay. On Wednesday, we've got the Geodesic Sprint Series Australasia at Phillip Island. Make sure to look at that on the iRacing Esports Network. And on Saturday, it's going to be the big one, Jay, the VSR Showdown. We're going to be broadcasting live from PAX in Melbourne.
Live on the Red Bull stage as well. So not just going to do it in a little area just off tucked in the corner. We're going to be right in the thick of the action on stage with the Red Bull gaming crew. And big thanks to Red Bull and also HP as well for having us as part of it as well. Looking forward to you coming across. And also, as you said, too, another V8 race tomorrow. We've got 2,300 kilometres of V8 racing this weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's been a big weekend, but it's time to get on the hype train. We've got our big announcement in only 10 hours' time.
Yeah, definitely. So it's about 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So stay tuned to all of our socials. We're on YouTube, of course, on V8's Online. We are on Facebook as well at V8's Online. Subscribe and like. We're also on Twitter too, so make sure to give us a follow on there. And on next Sunday, wow, V8 Scops at Montreal, the Montreal 600. 2 races of 300 kilometers. That's going to be a big one too, Jay.
It's going to be awesome. A different format, a track that always turns on amazing racing, always has a real mixed up field as well at Montreal. Looking forward to next weekend. 2 major events on the same weekend, which is going to be absolutely incredible. I can't wait. I know you can't wait. And something different as well. We're going to be side by side for both of those events, which is going to be really cool.
Yeah, definitely. For the first time, we'll be commentating side by side, which is definitely going to be an interesting one for sure. Well, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope to see you all at Myrtle Beach for the final round of this championship. Massive thanks to Michaelette and the Majors administration team for giving us the opportunity to bring this series to the world. Your winner, Josh Nowak. Your champion, Josh Nowak. This has been the Bathurst 500, the penultimate round of the Majors series. See you next time.